16, 2018 meeting of the City Council of the City of Springfield is called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Will do. Alderman Redpath.
Here.
Alderman Senor. Here. Alderman Turner.
Here. Broke again.
Alderman Fulgenzi.
Here.
Alderman Proctor.
Here.
Alderman DeCenso.
Present.
Alderman McMiniman.
Here.
Alderman Tylen.
Here.
Alderman Donlin.
Here.
Alderman Hanauer.
Here.
Mayor Langfelder.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, a quorum is present.
I do have one presentation to make tonight, and I'd ask Convention and Visitors Bureau Director Gina Gemberling to come forward. As you know, this is her final week of service after 24 years.
Not even going off. I don't even think they're on.
Gina, congratulations. It gives me pleasure to congratulate Gina, and she's done a great job. I think she started under my father back in the day, and has really worked her way up through Convention and Visitors Bureau. But we not always saw eye to eye, but what we knew is that she always had Springfield's best interests at heart and really promoting Springfield, which we can't thank her enough for. So we appreciate all her good works to putting Springfield on the map, especially with regards to Convention and Visitors Bureau and tourism for Springfield. And so I'll read this, and it has you can hang this up in Arkansas. Has a picture of Abe. That's your competition now. That'll be your competition. But it has one of his best sayings, in my opinion. It says, "Government of the people, by the people, for the people," and that's what it's all about, from the national level all the way down to the local level. And Gina has exemplified that, and it says, "In appreciation of her public service, the City of Springfield commends Gina Gemberling for her years of commitment and dedication to the Springfield Convention and Visitors Bureau. She's convention sales from 1993 to 2014, and director from 2014 through 2018. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I wish you the best.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you. It was a pleasure working with all of you here at the City Council and the entire city of Springfield. You know, I've been very fortunate and very honored and proud to be a part of the Convention and Visitors Bureau for over 24 years. As you all know, the tourism industry, we bring tons of dollars into this community. So as you all go through your budget hearings the next few weeks, I'll give that one last plug for tourism and what it really means to invest in tourism and the returns it does bring back to the community. So again, thank you all very much. It's been an honor. And if you ever get to Little Rock, you know where to find me.
So we'll head into our zoning portion of the meeting. First item on the agenda is docket number 2017-045, the property located at 1301 West Washington Street. It's my understanding this is withdrawn.
That is the petitioner's
Request.
preferences to motion to withdraw.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The petition is withdrawn. Next item on the agenda is docket number 2017-486 for the comprehensive plan. Petitioner is City of Springfield. Consideration of the 2037 comprehensive plan for the City of Springfield, Illinois, as amended. A public hearing was held November 16, 2017, in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. At that time, the plan was presented and an amendment proposed and accepted by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Testimony was heard The opponents and proponents of the plan, the commission was also provided with written comments that have been submitted to the city on the plan. After the presentation, comments, and discussion, the commission made its recommendations. Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation is accept the comprehensive plan as amended. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we accept Amendment 2, Amendment 3, and then the attachment for Amendment 3. It's a result of the negotiations between the developers and I guess the mayor's office and the regional planning.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to amend, accepting Amendment 2 and 3 with the attachment accompanying Amendment 3, and seconded.
So just from to make sure the record is clear, Amendment 2 is actually Amendment number 1. Amendment 3 is actually Amendment number 2. It's attached. It just has to do with the numbering.
All right.
So
yeah.
the substance is exactly the same.
Okay, that's fine. Then with
Okay.
that correction.
Any other discussion?
Discussion, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman McMenamin?
Is Molly Burns here tonight? Molly, could you answer a couple of questions to tell us whether these amendments are the same or differ in any respect with what we discussed last week? Did you get the question? You want me to repeat it?
Yes, I did. What is Amendment 2, as is on the floor at the current time, is the synopsis and everything that was discussed at last week's meeting. There was a little bit of tweaking of wording. However, in no way did it affect the integrity of the plan, Alderman. So from that standpoint, it just kind of cleaned up a little bit of the language. Amendment 3 is all of the changes that need to be made because of Amendment 2. In other words, where it said agriculture conservation, we had to go back through every page of the plan. In some cases, change that to policy contingent. In some cases, delete the language. So all of that is on Amendment 2. The attachment that you have before you is an entire new page 42, because we had to consolidate the language on page 42 by changing the land use categories that we discussed at the meeting last week. We had to find 4.5 inches of column space or repaginate the whole document, which is a nightmare. So what we did is consolidated some of that language. It does not change any of the intent at all. It does not change the language. It is my understanding that the development group has seen and agrees with these changes as well. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Any other questions or discussion?
Can we get the Dean Graven up to just clarify? Is that, I think we got.
Sure.
Molly, thank you again.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Bonnie. Good evening. I want to first thank Molly, her committee, and staff. They worked very hard with us. It was just 30 days ago that we asked for this, and I can tell you in 30 days, several hundred hours were put into this from the developer's side, and I can't count the number of hours that you guys, but it was a tight time frame, considering the fact that actually last week was a week ahead when we had to come up with even more information. So I just want to reiterate a few things because this plan is very important. It is an advisory plan, but it is, as I said last week, it's part of a three-prong. You have to have a very strong land sub that works with this plan and is understood. You have to have a very strong zoning. But zoning and land sub really will dictate how development occurs in our city. Timing is everything in development. Time is money. When we have delays in development, it could stop us from laying asphalt in the fall. It could stop us from digging holes as we have this weather right now. So when we're asked to hold for 30 to 60 days and we do so, I just want to remind everyone, when it's time to move, we have to move as a city council, as a planning commission, and make things happen. Developments don't always come back. They leave us. And Mayor, you made reference to that last week when a development ended up going to Chatham. That can happen to us day in and day out. So a few bullet points on the plan and then a final comment overall on this process. And I think you just received this. Am I correct? So you haven't had a chance really to review it. We felt it was very, very important that it was stated that this is an advisory plan as it's stated in the statute, Illinois statutes. That's on page 28. On page 31, 3.1, the necessity for essential public services. It is very important to us, and it reads this way, to ensure that development occurs in those areas best prepared to support it. New development should not occur unless public water, public sewer, fire protection, and adequate roads are available as defined in the site suitability section of the land sub. If I walk away tonight saying if that's the one thing I need to ingrain in all of us, that when those things are in place, development should move forward. The next one is still on page 31, 3.1, under management of undeveloped land. Property currently undeveloped, particularly property in the outlying or planned boundary areas, should only be developed if necessary infrastructure will be in place. Keyword, in place. Who puts it in place? The developer. If you're going to have a subdivision or a strip mall or a large development, you will pay for that water, that electricity, that gas, that sewer, that storm sewer brought to your development, and then you will pay for it. The city's not paying for that. Yes, you will pay for the maintenance, but your return on that investment is many, many years, if not decades later. Development is our lifeline. Why is it the lifeline? It's the new property taxes that come from new development. It's the new water meters, the new electric meters that are being installed. Hopefully it's new students for our school district. And of course, it will be property taxes, sales taxes, new jobs. We need to have more homes, more retail centers, service centers, distribution centers, call centers, medical district investment centers, and hopefully light industrial. That might be a challenge in the state of Illinois under the circumstances we're dealing with our competition of Wisconsin, Missouri, and Indiana. We've lost over 150,000 industrial jobs in the last 12 months in this state. I would like to see Springfield be the leader and start to bring that back. It will be our lifeline. In terms of development, and this was in response to some comments made about cost, an analogy that was brought, I think, by Alderman McMenamin in another town in Bloomington, where if you make a mistake and you build a development very far out, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. Well, I lived in that town for 32 years before I moved to Springfield, or 28 years, excuse me, 28 years. And if you took a Google map and watched it over that 28-year time period, it grew exponentially eastward, opposite of Springfield. There weren't very few holes in the donut, but somebody made a mistake about 10 years ago and allowed a couple things to happen. And that example was brought to your attention, Joe. That's not a good analogy of how that city grew from 1974 to 1996. Our community has been blessed with subdivisions like Panther, Piper, Centennial, Savannah, the Reserve, Deerfield, Oak Park, and the large development of Concordia. Many of those subdivisions are at the 25-year mark, 20-year mark, and 15-year mark. Very little maintenance is being spent in your dollars as a taxpayer to maintain those. Thousands of dollars are being brought into the general coffer and should be used in development inside the city, in the core of the city, on the east side of the city. So if we have that development, be it residential, commercial, or large-scale development, you should be counting on 10, 20, 25 years of income with very, very minimal expenses. You'll plow a few streets, you'll replace a few light bulbs, but you're not going to be doing a lot of road work. An example would be Panther Creek that finally had its first overlay, and it's now 25 years old. We are building, as developers, some of the most detailed and high-end subdivisions that we can in terms of infrastructure. We're one of the few communities that's required to put strictly ductile iron for your water lines. That's very expensive. That's the Cadillac of water lines. It's not plastic. We're also doing a lot of the IDOT standards for our roads that will handle more than just garbage trucks. They're built to handle semis. As I want to close, I hope the city and this council looks forward to a lot of development, opportunity that will grow this city both on its fringes, in its medical district, as well as the core of the city. Mayor, I will look forward to bringing to you 2 to 3 names to be on the advisory or implementation team. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So any other discussions on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendments 1 and 2 plus the attachment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Now motion on the zoning request as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion vote yes. Those opposed vote no. The voting is now open. And the comprehensive plan request passes 10 voting yes, none voting no. We appreciate everybody
With those amendments.
with the amendments. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is docket number 2017-046 for the property located at 44 Long Bay Drive in Ward 1. Petitioner is Michael Fox. Present zoning classification is R1, Single Family Residence District, Section 155.016. Requested zoning relief, variance of paragraph 3, setback of Appendix A of the Land Use Plan for Lake Springfield and its marginal properties to allow an addition with a 0-foot side yard setback along the east-northeast lot line instead of the 10-foot setback required. Springfield Sangamon County Regional Planning Commission recommendation is approval of the petition as submitted. Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation is accept Springfield Sangamon County Planning Commission recommendation and grant the petitioner's request. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion vote yes. Those opposed vote no. The voting is now open. And the zoning docket number passes, 10 voting yes, none voting no. Next item on the agenda is docket number 2017-048 for the property located at 1956 East Cook Street in Ward 2. Petitioner is Hassan H. Hussein. Present zoning classification R2, single family and duplex residence district, section 155.017. Requested zoning relief reclassification to B1 Highway Business Service District, section 155.033, and a variance of section 155.068. Garages or accessory buildings or structures, and section 155.0 or .480I, landscaping, screening, and lighting regulations, transitional buffer yard requirement and landscaping, and a variation of section 155.063, required yard for lots adjoining residential districts to keep the existing garage, which is located on the southeast property line, and creating a approximate 0-foot side yard setback instead of a 7 feet 6 inches required, and approximately 0-foot rear yard setback instead of the 25 feet required. Also putting this in the required 10-foot transitional buffer yard along the south property line alleyway, and a variance to allow a west property line side yard setback for the principal building of 10 feet instead of 20 feet required, and a south property line rear yard setback for the principal building of 10 feet instead of a 25 feet required. Springfield Sangamon County Regional Planning Commission recommendation is denial of the requested B1 zoning, as the garage is considered non-conforming and the requested variances are not needed since the B1 zoning is recommended for denial. Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation is deny the petition as submitted. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we continue this for 30 days, please.
Second the motion.
Been moved and seconded to postpone this for 30 days.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I don't have that one. Is there 47? Trust lane? Pardon me?
Fence.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is docket number 2017-049 for the property located at 204 and 208 South Grand Avenue East. Ward 6 petitioner is Sapsavin and Lisa Malone. Present zoning classification S2, community shopping and office district, section 155.031. Requested zoning relief, variance of section 155.11.2, surfacing, and 155.480, landscape screening and lighting regulations to permit parking on the gravel and concrete surface, providing relief of the surfacing requirement for a period of 24 months and a relief from provisions of the landscaping requirements for a period of 24 months. Springfield Sangamon County Regional Planning Commission recommendation is denial of the requested surfacing variance, approval of the requested landscaping variance limited to 12 months. Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation is grant the petition as submitted. Chair will entertain a motion.
I move to accept the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second. Been moved and second to accept the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion vote yes. Those opposed vote no. The voting is now open. And the docket number passes 10 voting yes, none voting no. Next item on the agenda is docket number 2017-050 for the property located at 3237 3301, 3311, 3321, 331, 3341, 3351, 3401 Headley Road in Ward 10. Petitioner is Phillips Investments, LLC. Present zoning classification is R5B. General Residence and Office District, Section 155.021. Requested zoning relief, conditional permitted use pursuant to Sections 155.021C4. Conditional permitted uses in the R5B General Residence and Office Districts, institutions, fraternal and philanthropy, all types of institutions for children or the aged, and all types of nursing homes and sanitariums, and 155.193 institutions to permit an assisted living and memory care facility. Springfield and Sangamon County Regional Planning Commission recommendation is approval. Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation is accept the recommendation of the Springfield Sangamon County Regional Planning Commission to approve the petition as submitted. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion we accept the staff recommendation of approval, please. Second.
Been moved and second to accept the staff recommendation of Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion vote yes. Those opposed vote no. The voting is now open. And the docket number passes 10 voting yes, none voting no. Next item on the agenda is docket number 2017-051 for the property located at 2401 and 2403 South Grand Avenue East in Ward 3. Petitioner is Lewis and Dory Williams as owner and James Mulligan as contract for deed buyer. Present zoning classification is B2, General Business Service District, Section 155.034. Requested zoning relief variance of Sections 155.112 to allow continued parking, temporary storage of automobiles, U-Hauls on a gravel surface instead of the solid dust-free surface, or in the alternative, a 48-month period for compliance with surfacing requirements 155.114B and 155.062C1 to allow the existing parking spaces along the Pope Street property line, which are partially located in the required front yard setback of 15 feet, 155.050, to allow the existing chain link fence, which is approximately 6 to 8 feet in height, to be filled in with slats and screening material to achieve a solid visual screen instead of the 8-foot height required by code, 155.069B1, to allow the existing chain link fence located along Pope Street property line, specifically the area within the 15 feet required yard setback, which fence is approximately 6 to 5 feet in height, to be filled in with slats and screening material to achieve a solid visual barrier to bring the property in compliance with Section 155.050. Screening by permitting a fence less than 50% open located in a required front yard. The fence is approximately 5 feet from the property line along Pope Street. Springfield Sangamon County Regional Planning Commission recommendation is approval of the variance related to fencing, sections 155.069B1 and 155.050, and parking in the front yard, sections 155.114B and 155.062C1, and denial of the requested variance to allow a 48-month extension to meet the surface requirements. Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation is follow. Springfield Sangamon County Regional Planning Commission recommendation on variances as written, and grant petitioner's requests except to the denial of the 48-month variance of section 155.112, surfacing granting a 24-month variance of section 155.112 with the condition of application of a dust palliative, is that how you say that? Palliative to the rock.
Treatment cover.
Treatment to the rock, that's easier. Chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we follow staff recommendation on variances as written and grant petitioner's requests except to the denial of the 48-month variance of section 155.112, surfacing, granting a 12-month variance of section 155.112 with the condition of the application of the dust palliative to the rock, fencing and application of dust palliative to the rock to be completed within 30 days.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept staff and Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation with the exception of, instead of 48-month variance of section 155.112, to move that to a 12-month variance, and then a 30-day application process for the dust treatment of the rock.
And the fencing.
Pardon me?
And the fencing.
And the fencing. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed to that amendment, say nay. Amendment passes. So voting on the docket number as amended. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes. Those opposed vote no. The voting is now open. And the docket number as amended passes 10 voting yes, none voting no. And that concludes our zoning portion of the meeting.
Do we pull that one?
At this time, the chair will recognize Treasurer Busher for the presentation of the financial report.
Thank you, Mayor Langfelder. The corporate fund in the month of December had a beginning balance of $7,116,332. We took in total receipts of $8,529,418. We had total disbursements in the month of December of $11,974,386, which left the corporate fund with an ending balance of $3,671,364. This concludes my report. Mayor Langfelder.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor of the treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion passes or accepted. Chair will entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the January 2nd, 2018 City Council meeting and approve the minutes.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Chair will entertain a motion to incorporate the pre-council first reading of ordinances into the record of this City Council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to incorporate the pre-council reading of the consent agenda into the record of this City Council meeting.
So
Second.
Mayor, I
Been
make a
moved and
motion we
second.
pull 2018-005 off for discussion, please.
Mr. Mayor, what does that pertain to?
That's the software and hardware for the fire trucks and the lights.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Chair will entertain a motion to place the consent agenda on final passage with the exception of 2018-005.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no. Voting is now open. And the consent agenda passes 10 voting yes, none voting no. Agenda number 2015-121, 2017-103, 2017-266, 2017-435, 2017-436, 2017-467, 2017-470, 2017-475, 2017-489, 2017-532, 2017-533, 2017-557, and 2017-558 remain tabled or in committee. Next item on the agenda is number 2018-005, an ordinance amending ordinance 499-11-17 by authorizing a legislative transfer in the amount of $96,760 and authorizing a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $9,000 from monies received from the Foreign Fire and Insurance Fund and deposited into the corporate fund for the Springfield Fire Department. Chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion for discussion.
Second.
Been moved and second for discussion. And I think we have someone signed up to speak.
Right. Here's,
Yes,
I
Alderman.
was
We're going to pass a
notified.
motion for discussion.
All those in favor to move for discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
I was notified before the meeting, really right before that, this was originally said it was a sole source, and it's come to my attention that there's other products out there that can do the same thing, and it truly isn't a sole source. And I'm concerned that we didn't bid this out. The potential of saving some money here, is always a good thing. And I just wanted to find out, I guess Sandy or somebody, can we explain why this was deemed sole source and why it didn't go out for bid to begin with? Sandy or the chief or somebody?
Yes, this, when it came before us back in, I believe it was November, and initially was approved by the council, we were provided documentation at the time that made the grounds of a couple of different reasons for the sole source determination. It was based upon primarily the consistency with existing equipment that is in place throughout the city at this present time. The issue was not the technology itself, but it was the fact that to be consistent with the other equipment that was in place, the folks that were awarded the contract are the sole distributors of that technology here in the state of Illinois. And so we were provided with a list of reasons that all passed muster for the determination to make this a sole source determination. So that was the basis on which the decision was made.
And I can appreciate that. I mean, anytime we have a vendor, they're going to say that their stuff is only going to work on their equipment, but that's not always the case. And I mean, I guess we got to be careful. The fact that we didn't go off for bid we don't know what would work and would not. I guess is my concern.
Alderman, I depend on the expertise of the individuals in the department that provide that information to me, and so that information and documentation was provided to me by the fire department. It was checked in for consistency with our public works traffic engineer folks in terms of its compatibility with the information that they were aware of, and like I said at the time, all of that was provided to us. It passed muster for the determination under city code.
Right. Okay.
Chief, well, you want the chief to make a comment?
Yeah, Chief, you want to talk about that a little bit, please? I just look, if there's competition out there and the potential of saving some money for a taxpayer, especially in this budget time, I think we gotta look at it, And so.
Oh, absolutely. I'd reiterate what Sandy said. Of course, and when we looked at this and we looked at it as a group, it seemed like that it was the perfect fit for us because of the familiarity that it has with DOT. They are their signals. It also runs on a 2.4 gigahertz system. instead of a 900 megahertz system, which your cell phone runs on. Okay, the other one had a data plan. We looked, a couple things like that. There was not a competitive bid on this. There was not. We looked at the system. It seemed to fit the security of the system. It's proven track record in other communities. I mean, it's up to the council what they do at this point in time.
I think there's another vendor here who wants to talk about this.
Right. So if you'd like to come up and state your name and address for the council, we'd appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Michael Standard. I'm Regional Sales Manager here in the state of Illinois for a company called Mobotrex, which stands for Mobility and Traffic Experts. And this is Tony Jettner, our IT Sales Manager. Our company provides anything has to do with signalized traffic control. Back in 2016, I approached Chief Helmrich and talked to him about emergency vehicle preemption. And then at that time, he didn't have the money in the budget to pay for it. And he was hoping in 2017 that he would. Throughout the year, I kind of touched base them, didn't have the money. And so I didn't hear anything about it again until early December when I saw on Channel 20 News that you had approved partial funding on this. The difference between what our equipment does and what their equipment does is our equipment uses radio communications as well as cellular communications. Theirs is radio only. The reason we do that is because you could lose one communication, so we back it up with redundant communications so that there's always communications with that truck. In addition to that, by using cellular communications, you can get free, seamless, over-the-air updates to the technology. So anything new that comes along, we provide that seamlessly by cellular communications. If you use radio communications only, then you would have to go out to each and every cabinet and plug in a laptop, thumb drive, whatever, to update that information. Now, as far as consistency, I'm not sure exactly what they mean by consistency. Yes, all the cabinets in the city of Springfield have our competitor's controller, but our equipment works with any controller, whether it's the controller we sell, Econolite, which is what the competitor is bidding. There's a company called Intolite and McCain, all those. It makes no difference. In fact, we have several locations around the United States where they do use Econolite. In addition to that, the cellular communications difference, there's an app that any person in the city of Springfield driving in the city of Springfield can download free to their phone, which will, in addition to the fire truck getting the green light, that equipment will talk to their phone and it will let them know fire truck, emergency vehicle approaching 0.8 miles behind, whatever distance it is. And we all know a lot of people have the radio blast, air conditioning on, etc., and they can't hear that. And what's the first thing to do as soon as they see the lights in the rearview mirror? They panic. In addition to that, City Water, Light, and Power, who is going to maintain the equipment, they can communicate to that cabinet. So if the electrician on duty gets that call at 3:30 in the morning from the police, hey, this intersection's a flash, he can go right to his smartphone, his iPad, whatever the case may be, and he can determine pretty much almost 100%, certainly not 100%, but pretty much what the problem is before he even gets out there. In addition to that, our quote is $15,000 less. Now, when I talked to the chief about it, he was concerned about recurring costs and if the equipment would continue to work when the 5-year plan was up, 10-year plan, whatever you sign. And the answer is yes, it will continue to work. If you didn't continue with our cellular service, it would work on radio only, which is what the current provider you have in front of you, that's what theirs works on now. So we're offering you more equipment. We do free installation. In fact, they even told the chief, if you want to, we'll let you try it out 90 days, no cost. Then in 90 days, you say, hey, doesn't work, we don't like it, we take it out, no expense to you. We have a 10-year plan that's $13,000 less than your current bid. So,
no, I think Michael actually explained everything pretty good. One of the neat things about the app, I guess I will throw one thing in there. So this app is something that you can download to your phone, the public can't, and you can also use this as a proximity type of application. So if that vehicle is getting too close to a bicyclist, say for instance, these phones are talking to each other. That bicyclist will be notified that there is a car coming too close to you, not just an emergency vehicle, but a car that's coming too close that has that application running on its phone. Same thing for a work zone or a school zone. So if you have a school zone and you're exceeding the speed limit, it will send out an alert that you are in a school zone and you are speeding. You should slow down and be a little bit more alert. It does the same thing for construction zones as well. So.
When I put my bid together, the only specifications I had was 16 intersections, 4 vehicles. There was no requirements about anything else, which typically when we bid on these, for example, City of Atlanta, Georgia uses this equipment. Lawrence, Kansas is a little bit smaller than Springfield. They're installing it right now. They're putting on 160 intersections and 40 vehicles. Marietta, Georgia, same way. We can put you in touch with any of those people. All we're asking is that we get an opportunity to bid on this with specifications because it works with the equipment. You know, regardless what IDOT says, IDOT's not paying for the equipment. IDOT's not going to maintain the equipment. They're not going to install the equipment. We're going to install it no charge with a 100% warranty as long as you own the equipment, and we do it $15,000 less. Any questions?
Are you guys a local company?
No, I'm based in our company's based in Davenport, Iowa. We distribute traffic equipment in 14 states. We have a manufacturing facility in Austin, Texas. I've been a resident of the city of Springfield for 58 years. In fact, I'm a member of Ward 6. Went to high school, Alderman Hanauer. So I'm a local person. I'm based here in Springfield.
The mayor was there too.
And as well, and I grew up 2 blocks away from Mayor Langfelder.
Hey, buy it.
I have a question on the gigahertz versus megahertz. I don't know what your system handles, or?
Ours is a 900 megahertz system.
Megahertz.
Theirs, I believe, was 2.4 gig. Some of the differences are that 900 megahertz is a little bit more robust, actually, than the 2.4 gig. So we believe it's a better technology.
The thing is that each cabinet will have a cellular modem in it. Right now it's at 4 gig. If it goes up to 5 gig, if that's available, we automatically give you free modems, 5 gig, 6 gig, whatever it is.
Mayor, I guess the question is where are we on this? This is an amendment to the initial one. Is it, to me, I think it would be prudent to put this out for bid. I don't care if it's 15,000, 20,000, I don't care. It saves money, you know.
I think that's over a 5-year period, or is that 15,000 a year, or what was the status on that?
$15,000 for a 5-year period, and if you went with a 10-year contract, it'd be $13,000.
I'm just trying to find out, you know. I mean, this was just.
But I'd throw it to the chief, I guess, if you come up and, I think it wasn't going to go on until probably the spring, I thought.
Probably not. This is.
Do you know when the implement?
I mean, these guys presented a nice thing to you. I think if you want to bid it, let's bid it. Let the other company present what they have too.
Yeah, there's no time constraints on it?
Believe me,
at this point. I mean, we're past the holiday season. That was a concern at one time. It's still traffic congestion out there. We're still fighting the same battles. Most of them have to do with the way the road's configured. You know, it's great for traffic engineers with 300 or 400 foot medians, but it's absolutely detrimental to us getting anywhere. Traps people in areas. I just want to be able to get south faster. I don't care how it happens.
Right.
And I apologize to the other sponsors of this. This was just brought to my attention as I came up the stairs today. So,
Alderman Turner.
No, I was going to ask. I was going to have to ask the chief if he was familiar with this technology and how it would interface with what we have now, because sometimes cheaper isn't always better. And when you're talking about safety, it's very important that we look at, you know, all of those.
Go to the mic, please.
It's very important that we look at all of those different factors and not rely simply on cost.
Yes, I would agree with you.
Are you familiar? You should be a politician. Are you familiar? Are you familiar?
So much you can't screw it up.
Are you familiar with the technology, though? Are you familiar with this company, or you know one over the other?
I'm not an EVP expert by any means. Okay, I'm just trying to get a way for us to get south faster. We got an issue.
I agree.
Okay, we got a problem in town. This is a simple way to fix it. It doesn't cost a ton of money. Let's fix it. Yeah, that's all I want.
Alderman Senor?
With all due respect to the purchasing officer, but I think this is something that we should have just put on hold and let it be investigated through that office. I don't think we should be vetting this up here in public right now.
Alderman Redpath?
Doug, is there any comments from the utility about what they were saying about the maintenance side of this, as far as our traffic electricians?
I talked to Paul Burford about it.
I mean, the only thing you could say really is it depends on how many times the systems really need to be updated. So if it's a regular updates that are sent, yeah, there could be savings as far as, if they're automated, sent out. I don't know how much that would be though, but
okay.
That's you guys.
When they get a call, they can see what the problem is before they get out there.
I can tell you from being in EDP that the idea is to try to solve as much from your central location as possible. And I don't know if this will work or not, but for the EDP department, anytime they can keep people in the building and not send people out, it saves us in man hours and in how fast things get corrected. So that's from my old experience. I'm retired from that now, thank God.
I would just add, if anybody would like to see a live webinar, we can do it from the city of Atlanta, Marietta, anywhere you want, and you can see how this happens live.
Chief, and then Alderman McMiniman.
In light of the fact that our fire chief at previous meetings has indicated that there's a desire to expand this technology to other locations and other areas of the city, I'm glad that Alderman Hanauer brought this up, and that we do need to be careful and make sure that we have a consistent technology and that we go with the best technology. So I think it makes sense to delay this and to bid it out and get a full hearing of all the technologies that are out there that we might utilize within the city.
Chief, any other comments?
No, I think my main concern was security on all of it. I guess I'm hiding back on that, but I worry about things that you can access to easily.
Well, that's stuff we need to make sure is in the bid too, Barry. Well, then, so do we send it back to committee? Make a motion to send it back to committee, or and wait until it gets bid out?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to send it back to committee for a bid. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 2018-009, an ordinance authorizing Addendum A to the redevelopment agreement previously authorized by Ordinance 214-07-14 with Bright New Day Investments, LLC, for the properties located at 518, 520, and 524 East Monroe Street, utilizing Central Area Tax Increment Finance Funds by extending the date of completion to June 30th, 2019, amending the scope of the project and increasing the TIF award to $3,800,000, which includes a first mortgage loan of $800,000 for 524 East Monroe Street. Chair will entertain a motion to place agenda number 2018-009 on final passage.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and second. Discussion. We do have several people signed up to speak. Would you like to hear from them first?
Yeah.
So first is Court and Karen Kahn.
My name is Karen Kahn, that's C-O-N-N, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to address the council tonight. Since Court and I have written letters in support of the redevelopment of the Booth, Bateman, Kennedy, Ferguson building, Court and I have been asked daily what our interest is in this project. We've been asked, are you investors? Are you going to take over the project? Why are you taking such an interest in getting involved? The answer is nope, nope, and because. It's because we have a strong, wholehearted belief that downtown is the heart of our community. And with a healthy, vital heart, we have a healthy, vital community, and it represents our community's heritage and quality of life that we offer. I think everyone here realizes, and probably from Court's conversation last week, that I and my family are deeply passionate about seeing downtown make the most out of its potential of becoming a lively and vibrant urban neighborhood. We know that downtown can eventually offer the quality of life everyone seeks to find without moving to St. Louis or Chicago. Downtown can be our asset for us to attract and retain young, talented, and creatives. It can be an asset to attract new residents and businesses for the community, and which adds to the overall economic and social health of Springfield. But for Springfield to realize this and how much positive impact this has on our community, we need to encourage more interest downtown from investors. We need to encourage more momentum in the downtown redevelopment, and we need to proactively promote more downtown residential units. We are fortunate enough that we have incentive tools established for the downtown redevelopment, and we need to leverage that. We need to leverage our historic district, we need to leverage the central area TIF district, and we need to promote those efforts of revitalizing, reinventing, and regrowing this area. With this in mind, tonight, in essence, you're being asked to support this vision and the redevelopment of 3 historic and visibly prominent buildings that, when completed, will add 70,000 square feet of renovated space that gives us a marketable asset to attract new people and businesses. This project also serves as a catalyst for attracting more investment and redevelopment, and it's all for the best. Guess what? It also offers a return on investment because it's going to increase the property values of downtown, which then increases the property taxes that's going to contribute to that increment. And I would be remiss if I didn't also point out the potential sales tax dollars that could be generated from new businesses that come downtown. Let's keep in mind we are faced with declining sales tax right now. This could help. And I know from firsthand the difficulties of dealing with ugly, old, decrepit buildings. I know how easy it is to get the rehab costs escalating. I also know how difficult it is to get the financial institution investors on board because of all the risks that are involved. I've meandered down the same path that Mr. Lawrence is traveling today, but with the city's support of this TIF request, his sheer determination and unwavering perseverance, he'll manage through this. Over the last 3 weeks, most of us have already cussed and discussed all of the mistakes made, the risk involved, the oversight that's needed, and the solutions that need to be incorporated in this project's sustainability. So I'm not sure I can offer you any new insights or opinions or comments on that. But I do want to offer one bit of advice or a little bit of a history lesson. I want to remind this council about the outcome of the YWCA proposal that was a redevelopment agreement proposed in 2008. The developers at that time proposed to rehab the YW building into luxurious apartments with the assistance of a $1+ million TIF assistance. That vote did not pass by 1 vote because the council at that time felt the rents weren't sustainable. That vote sealed the fate of that property, and now that iconic landmark is gone, but that property still poses to be a thorn in the city's side. So that's a small history lesson that I wanted to share with you so that you could ponder prior to your vote. So I'm standing here today and I'm asking you personally and as a business owner and as an advocate for our city to please support Bright New Day Development Investment TIF request tonight. Your support will send a loud and clear message for future developers, and that's going to say, Springfield has a shared vision for growth and development. Springfield's open for business. So please, I ask you again, support this TIF agreement tonight. And I thank you for your time, Alderman and Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. Michael Higgins?
Michael Higgins, 1808 Dial Court, owner of Mullner's Restaurant downtown. I don't think I could say it too much better than Karen just said it. This project, moving forward, will provide, this would just be, like she said, a sign on the window that downtown is ready for redevelopment. I think in the last year, of our downtown. We've seen about 10 plus new businesses open up. We've seen that the Children's Museum is getting ready to open up. Downtown is making advances in directions in the 32 years that I've been downtown have not seen. And giving this project an opportunity to move forward will even give it more of a jump start and a bigger influence in attracting people to downtown. I don't know if anyone on this city council remembers, but a few years back, we hired a bird whisperer to take care of the pigeons in that project. Now we have a developer that wants to take care of the pigeons in that development. The money we spent on the bird whisperer, the money for the developer, I think for the developer is a much better investment. So maybe we could go back to a bird whisperer, or maybe we could stay with a developer. Like the gentleman said earlier, timing is everything in development. And our downtown is beginning to move forward in a way that I've never seen it in the past. And now is the opportunity to jumpstart it and make it move faster. Remembering what Karen said about property tax, about 40% of the property owned in the downtown pays no property tax. If we can have another property sit there vacant, paying very little property tax, or expand its property tax footprint. We have 2.5 acres we're wondering if we're going to get any property tax off of. Well, we know if we develop this property, we can get property or more property tax off it. So I would say that's why I support this developer. One time not too long ago when Rick Lawrence first took over the property, someone from DSI came to me and said, Michael, we're thinking about charging for the meters at nighttime. I said, what are you talking about, charging for meters downtown at nighttime? He said, well, when this project gets done, there'll be all these people parked in front of your business using your parking spots, not allowing your customers to have a place to park. My answer to him was, if you have 20 plus apartments across the street from me, I don't care where they park. So I hope you consider this project and move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Next is Paul O'Shea.
Thank you. Don't know that I could say it any better than they've said it. I'm Paul O'Shea, 2106 Cherry Road, essentially a lifetime resident of Springfield. And, of course, I've been a registered architect, 50 years here. And also have some construction background, which I think helps in this program, which dates back to my grandfather, who started the O'Shea Builders, and then my father, Harold, and then my brother, Bud, and then his son, Mike. And it's not a lot different than Rick. And seeing Rick in his early days, too, happened to be with R.B. Evans, his grandfather, and then his son, R.D. Lawrence. And so he comes through a long generation of construction. Together, we know that the construction can be a rough road, not easy, filled with unexpected adversity, and particularly when you deal with remodeling old buildings, big buildings. And just briefly, my 50 years practice with my firm of Graham, O'Shea, and Wisnowski and Hyde for over 25 years, and then with starting the architectural department, Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley Engineers, with experience over 15 years with that firm. Then the mayor asked me to come on board and work with the city's Office of Planning and Economic Development. And that was for nearly 10 years, and I have been away from there for a couple of years. But obviously, there was a lot involved with planning and economic development. But there was also a lot involved with TIP and all other sorts of opportunities for financing projects, including enterprise zone and so forth. Also at that time, I was asked to be chairman of the RUDAT committee, sponsored by the American Institute of Architects, Regional Urban Design Assistance Team, which brought professionals from all over the country. 7 individuals spent the better part of a week making recommendations, first reviewing our downtown and then making recommendations, including the fact that you need to keep in mind that the city is the heart of your city, and how it goes, so goes your city and your region as a whole. So it's important that you devote proper attention to that. Our program was so successful when they came back, they couldn't believe how much had happened since they were gone. And the National AIA recommended that we bring in the SSTAT team, which is Sustainable Design Assessment Team, which we did. And they also came in and made their recommendations. And congratulations. And actually prepared a study called the Bowen Study. You may have seen or heard about the fact that they looked at the housing situation in downtown Springfield, recommending a need for 400 units. Not many of those have been filled, but some of them have, but there's a desperate need for more. In the Ferguson building project itself, I saw the owners trying to rehab to sell it, and no takers, looking at builders and potential developers who just backed away from it. And I think Rick didn't look at it from the standpoint of just another project. He saw it as, I think, something important for our community. So he looked at it from the standpoint of, they talked to me about we talk occasionally with similar backgrounds, but he talked about the historic nature of the project. He worked with the historic preservation agencies and the city and others in order that we could successfully expand the downtown historic district in order to support the financial aspects of how that would improve the opportunity to complete the project, which he was desperately and hoping to complete with the help of his subcontractors and suppliers. Fortunately and finally, this TIF comes to us actually with the approval of the Springfield Economic Development Commission, who voted on it. And the fact that we are seeing financial entities looking at checks and balances, which I heard last Tuesday and was quite impressed with how we won't go to step 2 until step 1's done. And every step needs to be followed in the proper order. So I feel that if this is not approved and the building sits much longer, we're going to have to kiss some of the future potential development goodbye. For example, in my mind, I think when the city bought the Y Block and they sought letters of interest they received from 7 different developers, many outside the area in St. Louis and Chicago. But shortly after that, the council voted down a $10 million housing project downtown. So then when the official request for proposals came out, one was received, which was determined to be unacceptable. So we went out again, and we're still looking for opportunities to see that developed. So anyhow, I'm running out of time, but I certainly encourage you to approve this for our benefit for the long term and not look for a negative impact of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. Next is Lisa Clement-Stott.
Good evening. 1101 Williams Boulevard. I represent the 150 small and large businesses of downtown Springfield. I know that this project isn't perfect, but if our goals as a community are to use the TIF for what it is intended for, this is a check. If our goal is to increase tax revenue, this is a check. Previous speakers have talked about return on investment. That is real. Other TIF uses over the last several years will not produce increment, but this one will. If our goal is to repurpose vacant office space, we have hundreds of thousands of square feet of vacant office space. This is someone trying to change that. This marks the checkbox for that as well. If our goal is to increase the residential neighborhood, SSTAT said that that was the only answer to creating a sustainable downtown neighborhood. This marks that checkbox. And if our goal is to develop public-private partnerships to tackle the most difficult buildings, which SSTAT also said we had to do, the chamber is one example of pulling a bunch of people together for a public-private partnership, and this is as well. The TIF dollars are that public part that we need. And it's about tackling the toughest buildings. This is many, many stories of a building. Who else is working on a project like this downtown? If we were having this conversation and there were 3 developers lined up on 3 of the major buildings downtown, it might be a different story, but that is not the story for downtown Springfield right now. The small businesses are filling in, the small buildings are filling in, but we don't have enough champions for the big buildings, and this is a huge, audacious, hairy building. The previous sponsor about West Side Development said that, to caution you, if you didn't vote for the new comp plan, that developments don't always come back. Y'all voted 10-0 on that. That is true. We are not sure that if this development does not go forward tonight, when it would go forward again. He talked about property taxes, sales taxes, new jobs. All of that is relevant, just as relevant in downtown Springfield as it is on the west side. You know, all that downtown is asking for this project is that our neighborhood is given the same opportunity to use the financial incentives that are set up for Springfield to grow our neighborhood. That's all we want. If you stop and think about it, I know this is kind of an audacious statement itself, but if our downtown was revitalized, we would not be having a budget crisis in this city. So DSI respectfully requests a yes vote from you. We believe it's forward movement. We believe that you will reap benefits down the road. Much like Dean was talking about, you will get benefits 10, 15, 25 years. This project is that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Next, I'd like Dan Sperry or someone from Bailey Restaurant to come up and speak if they would. And the reason I asked them, they have a different perspective since they're operating out of the former Cafe Brio location, which is within the Ferguson building. And they'll be one of the last buildings finished in the project. If you'd like to state your name and address for the council, we'd appreciate it.
Dan Sperry, I'm a resident of Rochester.
The same. Nicole Sperry, resident of Rochester.
Justin Richardson, resident of Springfield.
So we are a new tenant to the Ferguson building at 524 East Monroe with the Bailey Restaurant. We entered into a lease agreement with Mr. Lawrence. April of this year. Go ahead.
We firmly believe that the building has a lot of wonderful characteristics to it, and that's why we chose the space. We believe in downtown tremendously. I am from Springfield, went to high school at Tigard Griffin, and ended up coming back here after I was in South Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, and all those other beautiful places. So I believe definitely in downtown. And the 3 of us are trying to bring something amazing to Springfield, and we truly believe that this space in downtown and what Mr. Lawrence is positioning to bring to those 3 buildings would benefit obviously us greatly, but also everyone else in downtown Springfield. So we stand behind him 100%. As we know, being in the building, there are things that definitely need to improve for us to facilitate and treat our customers and deliver a better customer experience overall. So,
thank you.
Yep. I think you said it great.
Yeah, so we're counting on this development to happen to sustain us. We're producing some sales tax income right now, and we intended to continue that on. But if this building does not get developed, we don't know, if we're going to be able to continue our lease and be here for 10 years like we want to be. So
thank you very much.
We're riding on it as well. Thank you.
Any questions? Alderman Senor?
What drew you to that location? I mean,
I'm sorry?
What drew you to that location?
It's unique. It's nothing like anything else in Springfield. It's nothing like on the West End. There's tall ceilings. There's old terrazzo flooring. There's plate glass windows that are very inefficient. And give you a photograph.
But give you a great view, right?
Yeah. So. It's people will say it's something, Springfield doesn't have. It's very Chicago-ish. People are happy we're here. We brought something different. We're employing 20 to 25 people, now in that space. So, and we're excited about downtown. That's the core. And, if the core is not there, then you don't have, it's the foundation. So we're just, we're happy to be there, and we love that space.
Two more questions,
Yep.
if you will, please. How's business so far?
It's been really good, actually. I own the Garden in Berlin as well, and I thought it was going to be kind of a battle trying to get those customers to come downtown, but actually the numbers are showing that we're bringing over 100 customers a night on average, 4 days a week. I think that kind of speaks for itself. I think the space, is, like you said, is amazing. I mean, it's bright, it's huge, it's beautiful. Like, you don't get anything else like that. A lot of places are like dark, kind of dim, and things like kind of outdated. And you know, I think that space has a lot of potential. And the whole building, even like we got to see the rest of the floors. I mean, it's just windows all the way around. You know, 15-foot ceilings. It's like the space that people would want an office in, or a loft, or anything. I mean, there's so much potential in that building, and I think it's amazing. So.
And it's this kind of hard question, and if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. But if we vote no on this, then what would you do with your business?
I mean, I'll be honest, the building has been a struggle because it's very inefficient. Our utility bills are high, or you know, everything's high right now just because it's, you know, 2 degrees outside and we're dealing with a big space. But it's just got some inefficiencies there with the heating cooling system, and that's part of the redevelopment. And that's kind of what, you know, we're expecting to happen because, you know, that we thought this was going to be moving forward. So to answer your question, we don't know. We've been approached by other landlords that would love to have us, but we want to be here.
I appreciate that you have your business downtown. Not speaking for you, Aaron, but
No, ditto.
So,
Yeah.
but you know, we've taken a chance, and we're hopefully, you know, going to be rewarded for that chance down the road here. So.
Yeah, basically, I don't know, with him saying, like, we need the money, I think for the continuous growth of the space and the location, but, yeah, I just think that if it doesn't happen, like, personally, I mean, not to speak out of turn, but, I mean, we've already had to put so much into it out of our own pockets to try to keep it going, and working with Rick, who's been amazing and over the top with helping us out and trying to keep things afloat and, you know, taking care of every issue that has been occurred. This would just be a cherry on top, if you will, to really just help him continue.
Yeah.
Just gives us foundation, like we made the right choice, you know, to believe in this project. So.
Yeah.
thank you.
And when did you?
I didn't hear what the name of your place is.
Vele.
B-L-E.
Thank you.
The squid pasta is phenomenal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
Real quick, when did you start, I guess, the project for your restaurant? When did you start it?
April.
April this year, right?
Yeah. Well,
That's without any funds, as a reminder to the council. And then, when did you open?
We were shooting for July, and then
We were really excited about this project. We did November.
November 9th was our official opening, so.
Very good.
Yeah, so.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for your support of downtown. Next is Matt Drennan. He's with NTCIC, and I'd ask him to talk about two things. One is what came up with the committee as a whole is the tax credit oversight process, especially with the Ferguson building, how that would transpire in the oversight in all 3 buildings. And then also the market rents that, you know, he's from St. Louis area and what you've experienced there.
Yeah, thanks. Matt Jernan, CLA. I'm from CLA, not in TCIC, but
okay, sorry.
From St. Louis, Missouri, so I can kind of give you an outsider's perspective, and I won't touch on to what everybody else has said before, as they've said it better than I could. The oversight for construction. Yeah, so at U.S. Bank, I talked to them last night. They are not only going to utilize their own construction monitoring team, they are also going to hire a consultant, capital consultants, to be a lot of the eyes and ears and monitoring the cost of the draw requests for this project. Capital consultants, they utilize capital consultants as their construction consultant about 90% of the time for historic tax credit projects. They're the experts in historic buildings. So this is the type of consultant that you would want to hire for this type of project, is they're able to monitor cost and assure that those costs are in alignment with what they're seeing in the market. So there will be a robust process, and we talked about this last week. There's going to be a draw request. They're going to be monitoring, not only U.S. Bank utilizing their own construction monitoring team, they'll be out here as well, but they're also hiring a third-party consultant to make sure that they're looking at this correctly. And so I think there should be, you know, satisfactory looking at that. I mean, they're really doing their due diligence in monitoring this project. As far as the market rents, I know there's a lot of concern with, is there a market to support this? We're seeing this exact question in St. Louis currently. The St. Louis Cardinals are teaming up with the Cordish Development. It's a national developer. They're building a 27-floor high-end luxury apartment building right next to Busch Stadium. So, and that's the question right now. Is there a market for that high-end luxury apartment in St. Louis? And it's playing out as they're already receiving LOIs. This project also, and Mr. Lawrence can touch on that, has received LOIs for these residential units. So there's a fact pattern there. And not only that, if you just read the research, young professionals, empty nesters, retirees, they're wanting to be downtown and they want nice finishes. They want to be next door to a grocery store in walking distance. They want to be right next to a restaurant that they like to visit every night. That is the market. That's what's changing right now. And it appears to be so. In St. Louis, it's playing out as so. These luxury apartments are receiving LOIs. This apartment building is also receiving residential LOIs. So I think there is a fact pattern there that we can get some comfortability that Mr. Lawrence is looking at this correctly.
Hey, questions?
Were you on board before? When did you come on board with the project?
About a year ago, yeah. And so, just as an outsider's perspective, myself, my colleague, who's not here tonight, he's traveling as well, we were brought in about a year ago. And we've made countless trips here back and forth. And every time we'd make that 2-hour trip here and back, we'd have conversations about the market. We would always say, Springfield seems like an underserved, undervalued market. And it's actually playing out, our opinions are being confirmed because just last week, I had lunch with a former colleague of mine at U.S. Bank who is now a market president for a large regional bank in Missouri. And he was just telling me over lunch, without any knowledge of myself working on this project, that one of the markets they're looking to really approach is Springfield. They'd like to set up a branch here. And I asked him why, and he said, we feel that there's a huge growth potential for this community, for that city. It's undervalued. I'm working with some developers, and without any of their knowledge about our affiliation with this project, they're talking about doing some development in Springfield as well for some downtown senior housing. So I think there's a fact pattern there. And I think, and I believe, that this project will be a catalytic project for downtown. I mean, it's literally a block away, a vacant building for over 10 years or so. So I think this will be a catalytic project for downtown.
I know we put into place some checks and balances that we're going to require for this, and you guys told us that you're going to have people overseeing the project. You're going to make sure that the payments are made to the proper people, and all the back wages to the labor people we're going to be taking care of.
Yeah.
But do you know, was there an audit done when you guys first came on about what the spending patterns were before this all took place?
That I do not know. We were just brought in for the tax credit piece, and that's it. We're not doing any, auditing of the project, or we weren't aware of any audits of the project.
But from this time forward, you guys will be doing an audit, basically, by the checks and balances you're going to be putting in place?
Our independence will be ruined by just doing this consulting work, but we cannot do auditing work on the project.
Probably U.S. Banks, more along their lines, to be watching that?
Oh, yeah. No, they'll be doing the checks and balances. We'll be working with the project, delivering that information to U.S. Bank as a consultant going forward through the compliance period. But we can't do, our independence is ruined doing this work.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's the consultant you were talking about, CLA. They would verify
Where I'm
the
from.
work. Or no, the other group, Capital Consultants.
Yes. Now, they will be doing the checks and balances on behalf of U.S. Bank.
And so is that an additional expense, or is that going to be picked up by U.S. Bank?
That's an additional expense the project's going to have to pick up on. Yeah.
That built into the new budget?
It is modeled in, yeah. We already accounted for, we assumed that they were going to hire a consultant, so we were conservative on that model.
Yeah. Alderman Turner?
So we spent a lot of time last weekend, and now we're revisiting all these checks and balances that have been put in. So if everybody, if the other lenders are so comfortable with all of these checks and balances that are available, why are they not willing to move forward with approval? Why are they not so comfortable with the checks and balances that they're willing to move forward with saying we will lend this
they're
developer
ready. Yeah,
contractor?
that's a great question. They're ready. They're giving us a closing date of February 28th. the LOI is not signed with them. They provided it to us, and they've agreed to let us wait until this was resolved. And then once we sign the LOI, hopefully tomorrow,
Okay,
we're
well,
going to be running.
that's not the information that I received, and maybe I'm confused, was that the money coming from the other lenders was contingent upon the TIF funding.
Yeah, it's First Bankers Trust, and he'll come up in a minute.
And that's not my affiliation, but yeah, they can definitely speak to that.
Okay, so your lending institution is moving forward whether the TIF is approved or not?
Oh, it's contingent on the TIF. Yeah, it would not move forward without it, yeah.
Okay, so again, that's my question. If you're comfortable with all these checks and balances, why are you not willing to move forward with approval of the money?
With the LOI? Mm-hmm. There's a retainer fee, so we can't move forward. There's fees that are going to be required by signing that LOI. If this would not be approved and we go ahead and sign that LOI, we'd be out of money, out of pocket. And they've agreed to wait, so.
And to finish the project, it takes all the financial partners. It takes the tax credits, it takes the TIF, it takes the TIF loan, and it takes the bank, which Greg Curl will come up and speak to.
Right, no, and I understand that, but I'm just asking the question that everybody's so comfortable with all these checks and balances, but nobody's willing to write a check.
Mayor.
Alderman Hanner.
Yeah, this is just an overall question, not necessarily for you, but okay, here's my concern. You've got the development portion of it, which is Bright New Day, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Bright New Day. Now, do they owe the money to the vendors, or is it Cisalano, the contractor, that owes money to the vendor? And if we distribute this money to Bright New Day, do they get to take an administrative fee off the top prior to getting it to Cisalano to pay the vendors?
Work's been done. I would have to ask Corporation Counsel as far as how it would transpire is there's been work done. Actually, there was when Karen Davis was the director of OPED, there's requests coming in at that point, but the bank was reluctant, and Greg Curl can come up and confirm this or dispute it, was reluctant to advance any more funds because the project went out of scope. So when you're a banker, you look at the project. Originally, the TIF was approved to complete the booth building, and then the Ferguson, the outside part. Well, everybody saw that happen because that's when they took off that screening, and the pigeons or whoever were let free. So, so kudos to the bird whisperer, it worked. But anyway, with regards to that, that was it. So the project went out of scope because he started doing work at the Ferguson. He started doing work on the infill building. And the reason for that is that provides elevator access to both buildings, and it makes available more space to be utilized for residential and office area. So he submitted, reimbursement from the TIF, but when we knew the bank wasn't going to forward any more funds, we said, wait a minute, that's not going to cover the project. So it was withheld. That was at the end of 2016. In the meantime, Rick, prolonged, he thought it'd be coming. The bank that was contingent on the tax credits. So Rick, to his credit, he had to go out and find a tax credit participant. That's when he finally found Matt, and they helped him through this whole process. A year later, we're finally here at this 0 hour, and that's where all the pieces came through. So how the funds are being dispersed, I'd leave it up to Corporation Counsel, but how they will be dispersed upon the closing of the tax credits on February 28th, the bank board approves the financing going forward from them. At that point, all the contractors would be paid, the back benefits would be paid at that point in time, and then the project would move forward. And all three parties involved, the city, U.S. Bank, and First Bankers Trust would all have to sign off. Tim Smith is here from the architects. He's going to oversee the project from the bank standpoint on the booth and the infill building, and then U.S. Bank's going to oversee the entire project. That's right. For an entire completion. But Corporation Counsel, if you want to weigh in on that.
You understand my point? So you've got the developer portion that Rick owns, and he's also owns the construction company. So what I was wondering is there an administrative fee that they can charge us? To me, they should not be able to charge us an administrative fee from the developer's standpoint when it should go directly to the payee, so we don't get an administrative fee. I don't know if, I'm just asking a question. I don't know if they're allowed to do that by TIF standards or not, but if that's the case, we shouldn't allow it.
Yeah, I know on the sources and uses statement, I think it has a loan from Siciliano Inc. for $700,000. So I imagine that's the administrative fee that would be part of the sources used to complete the project.
To try to answer the question, I think you were asking the amounts that are due now, is there an upcharge or a commission or something?
An administrative fee or some sort, or I don't know what you would call it.
The answer is no, based on the information the city's received. We've got a detailed list of the amount, which is approximately $1,060,000 for the amounts that are due now, the unpaid amounts for both benefits and subcontractors. The developer is not allowed to charge an up fee on that. Those go directly to those, well, at a closing, in fact, what will probably end up happening is there will probably be checks drawn from the title company directly to those individuals.
Yep.
So there's no upcharge. It doesn't go through a developer and then an upcharge.
Well, and then the other question I have,
that is based on information we've received directly both through the bank, from the developer, and also I think the tax credit personnel have looked at the amounts, and the exact amount is I don't recall, but it's approximately $1,060,000. Those are detailed individually where each payment goes.
And was there a forensic audit on the initial phase of this?
No.
There was no forensic.
I'd have Rick or Greg Curl come up and speak to the bank's role and speak to that, if you would, please.
Can I ask one question before you move?
Sure.
So, just so I understand, does that mean that Siciliano is part of for the $700,000, part of the vendors that are scheduled to be paid first?
No.
That's what he's put in. I think Karen Kahn addressed that. He can speak to that. He'll come up after Greg Curl, but it'd be what he's put in himself as far as that would go, but he can speak to that.
So he's not listing himself. See, and Alderman Hanauer raises a good point. This gets very confusing because you have the same entity that's playing all the roles. So it's difficult to understand money going in, out, and where it's going and who it's going to. So are we saying that 700, because I remember last week I did ask for a list of all the vendors and the amounts that were owed. So that is not the list that you were just referencing. I'm trying to wrap my head around this $700,000.
That is different. Right. Yeah.
Okay, so the 700 is just the amount of money that he's put into it, that he's...
Yeah, he can answer what that would amount to. Rick will. But if you'd speak to the questions regarding work that's been completed and the bank standpoint, how we got to this point.
Okay. I'm Greg Curl, and I live at 1408 North 7th Street here in Springfield. And I'm with First Bankers Trust Company. I'll just introduce Tim Smith, and he's with Evan Lloyd. I have Tim here because we are actually engaging Evan Lloyd to oversee the project for us moving forward as far as making sure that all the construction draws are per budget and they're paid to the vendors in accordance with the construction plan. This project went off the rails. Rick will be the first to tell you about the decisions that he made that resulted in that. And, once we realized what had happened, it was the scope had changed to the point where there was no reversing course. And so what we've been focused on ever since that point in time is looking at how can we restore the project? Because I can tell you, as far as the bank is concerned, we still believe in the project. We still believe that the project is good for the city, that there is sufficient demand as far as market demand for the rents on these proposed apartments, and that the commercial space that's being proposed is also in demand as far as the city is concerned. So we believe in the project. Now, what we've been focused on for over a year is how can we work the project to bring it back to a point where we can see that it moves forward, because he was out of money. And, you know, there was no way, you know, for us to move forward with the project from the bank standpoint just on our own. And so that's when, you know, we started investigating the ideas of tax credits. You know, we took a lot of time to research and understand, you know, what the availability of historic tax credits and new market tax credits are, and how those can work in concert with a bank on financing. And then in addition, the city and their possible involvement. There's really 3 pots here that we have today that we've worked to identify as source of funds for this project to move forward. That includes the bank, that includes the tax credit investor, and that includes the city. And I can tell you, without all 3 working in concert, bringing sources of funds to the table, the project won't move forward. There is not enough money to move the project forward. Okay, so scope changed. When we initially got involved with the project, we were focused on 1 building. But then the scope changed to the extent that there was no turning back, that drew in the other 2 buildings. Now we're talking about a considerable amount of additional required funds to complete the project. And so that's been our entire focus, is trying to work in partnership, you know, with the tax credit investment people, and now you as the city, to still join arms and recognize that this is a valued project for the city, and please consider the alternative that we all, you know, would face if we're not able to join arms. It would just be a great disappointment, I think. So, Mayor, I don't know if that addresses questions. I'm certainly open to questions. But I did want the council to understand that the bank is behind the project. Yes, our commitment is contingent upon approval of the TIF funds, and it's also conditioned upon the approval of the tax credit money. And I can tell you, we're almost there. All we need is your vote tonight, and we are there. So,
Alderman Senor?
You all have obviously done a lot of research on this and found out the positives outweigh the negatives. Can you share what some of the negatives were that you saw on this project?
Well, I think the negatives have been just not probably doing a good enough job recognizing going into this the state of condition of these buildings. These are old buildings, and you know, while you do a lot of investigation and you try to identify you know, what the potential problems might be in a building, you just never know until you get in and you start working in the building. Another problem was, another negative is, because of the way the buildings are structured, it's very limited as far as the footprint in terms of how each floor can be configured to accommodate the maximum number of apartments, you know, that we were looking for to maximize the cash flow potential, okay? And so, I mean, it's, if you, as I'm sure we all understand, if you start out with a new building, none of this becomes a problem because that's all taken into consideration, you know, in the construction planning. But with an old building, unless you've had a lot of experience at something like this, I'm just going to say that there's more risk, certainly, than we identified up front.
So what was the tipping point? What made you say, we see this, we know you've had some problems, we're going to go ahead and support you anyway? What made you come to that conclusion?
To continue to move forward with the project?
Yes, sir.
we still have belief in the project. Again, I still believe that there's good demand for these apartments. I still believe that there's good demand for the commercial space that will be available in these buildings. And so, I mean, I think it's that belief that it's a good project that still has us at the table. I mean, quite honestly, we could have made a decision just to walk away. But, you know, I don't feel like that would have been a short-sighted decision. You know, had we not put all the time and effort into the due diligence that we've done, including Tim and his crew, to come to a better understanding about the project, the risk, how to mitigate the risk moving forward, and what the true potential value is of a finished project after it's all said and done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Donlin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a question. Much has been talked about the rents of the apartments once the project is completed. And I've never really heard of a project before where we're talking about rents being a certain level, and if the rents aren't sustainable, then the bank will foreclose. We even had some documents provided to us earlier in the day that basically says that. And really, I guess my question is, what are the rents for the individual units, and does the bank feel that they're sufficient enough to make the project cash flow?
It's a good question. We do feel that the rents are sufficient for the project cash flow. That's why we're still here. The rents will range anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 a month. And the best way I think I can answer that question is just to say that I've seen the letters of intent that Rick has to fill the Booth building. So I know that once the Booth building is done, his apartments are rented. And these are people that are coming in, and fortunately he has a couple of apartments that are finished to the condition that you can see what the finished goods will look like. And the feedback that he's getting from people is that we love it, we want to be downtown, you know, we're retired or we're retiring and we want to downsize, and this is where we want to be. And, you know, your rents seem reasonable to us. So much so to the extent that they've signed letters of intent. So that's where I come from on this.
Well, I appreciate that answer, hearing about the letters of intent. But you've obviously done your research and you know the bank and been at this a long time. What do you see in the downtown market now? What are the going rates for apartments in the downtown area presently? Just out of curiosity.
I'm just going to say on average probably $1,200 maybe to $1,500 on high. So this does push it up. But I think with the finishing touches that Rick has planned, and again, just based on the feedback that he has received from potential tenants, the market seems to be there. This is going to be a little more unique and different, and a test of a market that hasn't been tested. But based on the feedback that we've seen, I believe I believe there is a market for those rents.
Well, what raised the alarm, my alarm, is that we're being asked, and I know renovating existing buildings is tremendously expensive.
Right. The
city is being asked to utilize public funds, basically the Cadillac price. And what I'm worried about is there's already talk about down the road, maybe if the rents aren't, or it's proved to be too high, we'll just foreclose and we'll still have a completed project and be able to move on. That's just a concern when we're investing such a great amount of city funds.
And Alderman Donlin, I appreciate your concern. You can say that there's that same concern with every project where financing is involved. There's a reason why developers are developers, and they're entrepreneurs, first and foremost, and they're willing to take risk. But they need partners in order to manage the risk. That's where we get involved. That's our business. We take risk with them. And what our job is to try to make sure that we understand the risk and that we have the safeguards in place to mitigate the risk. And so with this project moving forward, as far as the construction is concerned, I truly believe We have the safeguards in place to mitigate the risk. And as far as the cash flow for the building moving forward, honestly, if we didn't believe in the demographics that we've researched, that we've studied, that we've come to learn and accept, again, we would have just walked away. I mean, we wouldn't have invested the time that we have put into it to today, and we wouldn't be up here as a partner with the tax credit investor saying that this is a good project, but city, we need your help. We need you to be a partner.
And with that, I should clarify, and Greg can correct me if I'm wrong, so the project's completed. Part of the units rent, others don't. Rick's not able to meet the financial obligation with the bank. The bank forecloses. At that point in time, I imagine you sell it at a reduced rate to somebody else. They come in, and the market will dictate what those rents would be. The city has first position on the Ferguson building, so it protects our $800,000 loan, and we're in better position then than we are today.
Right.
Would you disagree with that?
I wouldn't disagree at all.
Alderman Hanauer?
Yes, in the bank, again, I'll ask, I had to step out, but the bank did not do any type of forensic audit on what was going on with the project prior to?
Well, by forensic.
See any type of, see where the money was spent and whatnot.
Okay, so by forensic audit, if the question is, did we hire CPAs to perform an audit trail on the funds that were advanced, we did not. But the reason why we didn't is that we used the title company. And so we have our own accounting on our own records that we're able to go back and review. And we satisfied ourselves that all the money that had been spent was, first of all, evidenced by invoice, and that the invoices were with the contractor and or subcontractors in the project. Now, where we fell down and didn't do the job is to understand the work provided by those contractors and subcontractors as far as where the money was going or the work was being done. In other words, we felt the work was being done in one building when in fact it was being done in 3. And by the time we found out, it was too late to turn back, as I've already mentioned. But we know that all the money expended went into the project being the 3 buildings.
Now, it's Evans and Lloyd, right?
Evan Lloyd.
Evan and, okay. Now, so what will your duties be on this particular case? Are you just looking at the project as it is right now, or going forward, will you be making sure that it doesn't get sideways? What exactly are your duties? Because I've heard that there's some miscommunication on what you guys' job actually is.
We were brought in by First Bankers Trust to help them decide how to move forward successfully in the project and not make the mistakes that might have been made in the past. So what we've done with several of the financial institutions in the area is act as a third-party agent for the bank to protect their interest. And what we do is we'll review those monthly draws. We will review the work in place and compare it to the work that he's requesting payment on. And sign off that the work that he is wanting paid on is in place and done properly.
Is that for the TIF as well? Are you representing the city as well? Or?
We are representing the bank, and their exposure is to the Booth Building and the Bateman Kennedy Link. And then Matt's office, who came in earlier, is focusing on the whole project and the Ferguson component of that.
So they're the ones that watch out for the city's interest. Am I correct?
We will be in some ways looking at that. Since we're going to be looking at the monies for those 2 buildings, that's going to coincide with yours. Now, are we acting as an agent for the city? Absolutely not. But we will be looking at how the funds are being spent on those buildings, which does include you guys' money. We also, when it's a major step further on this project that we've never done before, is we provided an independent estimate on what we thought the work in the Booth Building and the Bateman Kennedy would be to complete it. We did that without any influence of Rick's budget numbers, and then we're in the process of comparing our estimate with those. And we are very confident that that's going to move in a positive direction. We're getting information from Rick on a daily basis to try to compare those numbers. But it is successful at this point, so we've not uncovered anything to think it wouldn't be. So, and we're going to use our numbers along with his as he moves forward to make sure to feel confident that the money that he doesn't start spending money elsewhere, like they're saying might happen before. So if we said we got this much money for the booth building, that's what's getting spent for it, this much for the other, and so forth. So it doesn't start to migrate into other areas that are outside the scope. I will say, as far as some fees, administrative fee goes, there's no overhead and profit margins in the costs we're looking at. For him to get this project completed with the monies that the institutions are willing to give, that's not in the cards. So there isn't inflated fees in the project. There's no overhead and profit for him in it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for them? Yeah, I'd ask Rick Lawrence to come up, and if you could speak to the sources statement about the $700,000, then also the letters of intent. Anything else you'd like to share with the council, we'd appreciate it.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. 700,000 is shown on the sources and uses. It's half of that is 350 of that is retention from Siciliano. When Siciliano did the work on the project from start, we submitted monthly invoices. And the monthly invoices were always submitted on labor and material at cost with invoice backup for all material or subcontracts. Then there was a 10% retention that was deducted from that invoice and held in escrow, held, not billed for. And the difference was what was paid. And that was paid by First Bankers Trust to Siciliano. And then after that was paid, we took those same invoices and we resubmitted them to the city to bill for the pro rata share of the TIF request. And that money was paid back and then put back in the account, and that recycled itself every month. So every month there was a detailed invoice, and 10% was held back, not paid. It was held, take off the bottom, and so it was 10% less was paid. So that the bulk of that 700 is money that was billed but never paid. So we're saying we're leaving that in the project and not billing for it. It's basically what that is. And that counts for the other the balance of the project. I intend to follow the same procedure going forward with billings. All the cost on this job from day one has been at cost. There's been no overhead and profit charged. There's been no fees charged by Bright New Day. And any money that was taken out, there was nothing taken out like that, and all the detail has been gone over. And anybody's welcome to look at it. I mean, we submitted monthly draws, monthly with backup information. The monthly draws were paid, and we proceeded that way month to month. That happened. That proceeded that way up until September of 2016, when after I'd gotten out of step, when I got excited in my project and what I was doing, and I lost focus, and I knew where I was going, but I wasn't good at sharing it. And I got myself going in a direction, and that's when I got out of step with the construction loan with First Bankers, and they stopped funding. And that happened in August. But I continued to work, and I asked my subcontractors to continue to work for me. I thought I was going to get things fixed, and they continued to work. And to this day, that's what I've been doing. Any work that's gone on there since September of 2016 I've had to fund from other sources, and because there was no draw to the bank. And that's how I got into this problem with union benefits. It wasn't wages. We paid the wages, I got behind in benefits. And that's what I've made arrangements with First Bankers for additional construction funding that will allow me to settle up these scores with these vendors and subcontractors that went to bat and continue to work at my request, believing in me that I was going to make things right. And I can square up with them with that. And that was that $1,060,000 that Greg referred to earlier. And there's a list of that lists all the people and the amounts that make that up to get that done and taken care of. And that's a goal of mine to get things square and then go forward. And I've been adamantly working on trying to achieve that since September of 2016. And this meeting here tonight with the council is, I'm at the end of my road. I've exhausted everything I can do to get this project as far where it is today and as far as it is, and get things in place to allow it to be completed. And I need this help to get it done. I'm committed to get it done. I'm here to get it done. I'm here to do whatever I need to do to get it done. And I continue to fight that battle to get things done.
And then the letters of interest?
I have letters of interest. One of the issues that came up first back in 16 was the issue of the rents that were being charged and the performance. That was an issue. And that was one of the concerns of the bank at first. And I went, at that time, the Booth building didn't have a finished apartment. But I went back, that was one of the things I stayed with and got finished, were the model apartments on the 5th floor. I finished an apartment on the 5th floor, a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom apartment that are basically done with the exception of fixturing them out or putting furniture or something in them, so that I could show people the quality of the apartment, what they would be getting for their rent. And I put together a pro forma of amenities and rent cost and invited people to come look at them and asked them if they had an interest in running these apartments, if they would consider signing a letter of interest at these rents that were published, that I had written on these documents for either a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment. And I started collecting these so that I would have information to go to a bank and say, there are people that will pay this for this type of an apartment. It's a different there's nice apartments downtown. I'm not here trying to say nothing's nice downtown. There's nice apartments downtown. But I am trying to raise the bar a little bit. And an 8-story building with the type of apartments we got in it raises the bar. And tying these together and making one large building, 70,000 feet of space, it's going to make it it's going to be a nice place to be. And couples that have, older couples or that have a large home out west that want to downsize, it's just what they're looking for. I've got 2 or 3 people like that this is where we want to be. If we want to get in our, take a vacation, we just lock the door and we go and we unlock it and we get back. Everybody feels good. One of the advantages I have, I don't have 100 of them. I got 20, 17 or 20 of them. So it's a small market, and I'm also talking to people that want an apartment that want special things done on it, but they'll commit to a longer term lease to have special amenities done for their specific space. So I'm confident. My downside I can't take these letters of interest to the next step because I can't tell them when I can get them moved in. I've got myself in a box. I got the elevator and the stairs that make these apartments accessible so the city will give them an occupancy permit. I got to get that part of the puzzle done. And that's where I got stuck. And I've been trying to get unstuck.
Alderman Redpath?
Rick, through this project, at the beginning, you broke a few rules on the TIF, through the TIF requirements. You said you submitted everything to everybody to be checked, but you didn't submit a certified payroll to comply with the TIF rules. Is that right?
No, sir, I did.
You did?
Yes, sir, I did. I submitted certified payrolls to the TIF every month before I got a TIF draw for the months that it was worked. where the certified payroll stopped getting submitted was in September of 16, after we didn't make any draws for TIF for any labor materials.
Any other questions? Alderman Turner?
Just to follow up on Alderman Redpath's question, so how did it come about that the benefits were not paid?
I ran out of cash. I mean, I was using everything I could find, I could, to try to get this thing done and keep it going forward. I was focused on trying to get the exterior of the booth building done so I could justify the tax credit part of the puzzle, so I could prove to people that we can get the tax credit qualifications and be acceptable for that, which we did. I got the outside of the booth done, and I got the sign off from the National Park Service to apply for these tax credits on the exterior of the booth. And I went ahead and I stayed with it and got those model apartments done. I was optimistic that I was going to get this problem fixed. And every time I thought I had it fixed, I ran into a snag and the can got kicked down the road another 2 or 3 months. And I've been doing that. I mean, many, many times I've thought I've had this thing fixed, only to find out that I needed to get something else done or something else approved to be able to get to this funding that I needed to make things right and go forward.
You know, I will tell you that I've received more inquiries about this ordinance than I have any other ordinance since I've been sitting in this chair, and that's been 6 years. And the big question that most people ask is, if there are rules in place with regard to TIF funding that require all projects to pay prevailing wage, which includes benefits, and the understanding is that if a person is in noncompliance with that, that would disqualify them from receiving future TIF funding. So is that correct? And if so, why is this project different?
I'll answer that, and then Corporation Counsel Val can fill in the gaps. With regards to this, it was back in late 2016, Karen Davis brought to my attention that the bank wasn't advancing any funds. At that point in time, I said, well, we're not going to advance any funds either because the scope of the project had increased. And so, as was pointed out, the original scope was complete the booth and just the facade of the Ferguson. It's, you know, we've been through that. So from that point in time, I think that's where he got in sideways. He tried to keep going, and one of the bank's contingencies were the tax credits. Well, it took a year. I mean, we're finally here today, a year later, at that point. And so we pulled the plug, protecting the TIF dollars to make sure that the project would progress as it should. And so we did pull it. That was my decision from a policy standpoint, because we didn't want to put our TIF dollars at risk. And so that's where it stands, and that's what he's here trying to correct. And so from that point, that's one of the prerequisites for this. First payment from this closing of the tax credits is to the outstanding vendors and the benefits to be paid, so everybody's current, and then we move forward on the project, because that's we want to make sure that everybody's squared and move forward for completion. So I don't know if Val or Corporation Counsel want to add anything with regards to that.
So if we had another so if we have a TIF, we have many TIF projects, and if we have a project where the contractor decides over a period of time he's not going to pay prevailing wage or he's not going to pay benefits, can he just come in and say, sorry, I didn't have the money, but I want to make it up now, and we just move forward?
Well, I paid prevailing wage.
But not benefits.
I got, the benefits didn't get paid. Some of the benefits didn't get paid.
Exactly. So,
but actually, that's on the work that was done after the fact.
All work that was done after after I didn't apply for any TIF. This all occurred from September,
which we have certified payroll on.
We didn't have any TIF draw.
But if you're paying the certified payroll, the benefits had to be included in that. And that's, how did you get behind on the benefits?
I haven't turned in certified payroll since then, sir.
How much of the project is completed now?
50%, about 50%.
Do you want to add anything to that, Corporation Counsel?
Well, just that the requirements that are being talked about are contract requirements. This is no different than any commercial contract where there's a default. There's no question there's been a default, both on the schedule, the scope of work, certain of the other requirements, reporting requirements, and so on. However, the issue is, can those be basically addressed? Can they be corrected? The answer is yes. It happens every day with banks. It happens every day in the commercial world. The requirement going forward is that the first step is that the correction be made to the default prior to going forward. It's no different than if a person has a house that's foreclosed on, you have a right to step in, make the payments, mortgage is back in place. There can be defaults that are correctable. That's the situation we're in here.
I'd like to add also that the funds to correct this problem are funds from the bank for construction funding. They aren't funds coming from any of these credits. These are funds I've made arrangements for through First Bankers Trust that I've worked out with them with extra collateral and things to fund this separate from that. So
and that was a condition, Mayor, that you had required that the bank agreed to, that before there would be any additional TIF funding, these matters would have to be addressed, and the bank agreed to that.
Mm-hmm.
They will not come from TIF funds.
Right.
Alderman Proctor?
This is in my ward. It's downtown. Represent a good chunk of downtown. And I'm just going to say this. I support this because I support downtown. And I do believe a finished project for downtown is better than an unfinished project. So I just want to be very clear. I support this because of downtown. I support downtown. I don't like how we got here. I think this was very messy. I think this was just Charlie fumbled the football, kind of deal. But I got to support downtown. So that's why I'm going to vote yes for this thing. In regards to the market and stuff, it kind of reminds me of the quote, it's darkest at night before the dawn. And I kind of feel that's kind of where maybe downtown is. We don't know what it's going to look like when the sun comes up. But I think this project is going to test that. And it's going to see, is downtown ready for this next phase of development? And I'm sorry to say, unfortunately, it's your project because we don't have other projects in line to test that market for downtown right now. So but I believe in downtown. Downtown's getting better. I believe downtown will be in a better situation with a finished project versus an unfinished project. So that's why I'm voting yes.
Alderman Redpath?
Rick, the tough questions are coming because we as a city council have seen the TIF, the Enos Park Association, there was monkey business going on over there. So we're tightening down. I mean, the TIFs are going to be hard to get. They're going to come in front of people are going to come in front of the city council and they're going to see that we're not just going to hand the money out. We have to be the stewards of the people's money, the tax money.
I understand that.
Okay.
And I'm here to try to make something.
I understand that.
Any other questions? Very good. Does anybody else wish to address the council on this matter?
Thank you very much for allowing me time to speak.
Any other discussion? Alderman Turner?
No, just before we get ready to vote, I agree with Alderman Proctor. I believe in downtown. I believe in the entire city of Springfield. I'm a lifelong resident of Springfield, and I love Springfield. I believe in it. I want it to grow. I want it to flourish. But the other piece of it is every vote that we take here is not just a vote on an ordinance for today. It sets a precedent for how we move forward in the future. And I am deeply concerned about the way that this project is being treated and the missteps that have been taken. And if we overlook them and hand this project another $2 million, understanding and knowing what has happened in the past, I'm deeply concerned that when other contractors and developers see what happens with that they will expect the same thing to happen. I mean, do we, again, have a developer or a contractor that is running low on funding, and then they decide, well, I'm not going to pay benefits for X number of months until I can get myself in a better financial situation, and then I will catch up with them. So I just think that we have to be very careful, and as Alderman Redpath said, send a message that we're just not handing out money to be handed out, that there's definitely processes in place that have to be followed. And I understand the defaulting and then coming back and fixing it. However, there's agreements are in place for a reason, and I think that how developers and contracts treat their employees is one of the strongest tenets that we have within those development agreements.
And I think that's why we're here at this point, because it took us a year to put this in place. There's a lot of contingencies. The bank wasn't going to advance funds. The city did the right thing by withholding the funds, not jeopardizing them, as the council would appreciate, and making sure we safeguard those funds. Unfortunately, Rick has the passion to continue on. He's weathered the storm. Most developers wouldn't even be able to do that. They'd throw up their hands, probably walk away. But you look at where we're at today, and we're on the cusp of really turning the tide on this project, but also for downtown. So that's why we're here, is we finally have all the financial pieces that are required by the bank, required by the tax credit entity, and the TIF is the final piece of that puzzle. Unfortunately, we have to take that first step forward, but it will be contingent on everybody being made whole. The opposite side, we can say, vote no. And then you know what happens? That building sits there, and I feel the pain of the YW. I had to make the decision to do what's happened. It was one vote shy, and Springfield's downtown would be a lot different place than what it is today. And so now I'm getting blasted because we're doing an interactive park or plaza, whatever the future holds, but the future's bright for downtown. But we're on the same situation. We're at the Y in the road, and we put together the best financial package possible. It moves it into a direction where we will have a great project. It's going to have the checks and balances in place. You have a committed developer, everybody be made whole. But if not, $1 million worth of contractors and union benefits aren't going to get paid. They're just not, because Rick's pledged everything to the bank, and that's because he believes in the project. And the bank believes in the project. I believe in the project. That's why we're here. The tax credit people believe in the project. So hopefully we have the majority of the aldermen that believe in the project. So is there any other discussion? Alderman McMenamin?
Thank you to all the speakers that spoke tonight. I think you made a strong case for a yes vote. And that the reasons for a yes are stronger than the reasons for a no.
Any other discussion? All those, Alderman DeCenso?
I just want to say that I also believe in downtown, and I believe in this project. I don't like the way it happened. I don't like that people are owed money. I don't think this should be a precedent that goes forward. I think, the buck stops here. But a half-finished building does nothing for downtown. Only a finished project will increase the value of downtown. And this is a textbook TIF project. So if we have given TIF money to other projects that probably didn't meet they met the requirements for TIF, but aren't going to generate any increment. So I just think this is something that we need to take very seriously, and that I'm going to support.
Any other discussion? Alderman Fulgenzi?
I agree with Alderman DeCenso. This is a textbook TIF project, and I think that if we leave this unfinished, we've really done a disservice to the community. And I'm going to vote yes on it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the ordinance vote yes. Those opposed vote no. The voting is now open. And the ordinance passes, 6 voting yes, 5 voting no. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is 2018-0-010, an ordinance amending various section of Chapter 90 of the 1988 City of Springfield Code of Ordinances as amended pertaining to movie theater liquor license as amended. Chair will entertain a motion to place agenda number 2018-010 on final passage.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded, and before we have discussion, there are representatives from AMC. If you'd come up and introduce yourself, we would appreciate it. If you'd talk a little bit about the project since you waited so long, we'd appreciate that too.
They had to sit through the previews, Mayor.
Hey, we're just getting warmed up.
I guess the question would be if they silence their phones or not.
My name is Rob Anderson. I'm an attorney for AMC Theaters who works on their liquor licensing matters. With me is Frank Lewis, the head of operations for AMC Theaters for the entire country. I'm going to turn things over to him very quickly. He's going to give a brief presentation about the project, what we're doing, our experiences, why we think we're a good fit, and then we're happy to answer any questions. He can answer operational questions, and I can answer legal questions.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Frank Lewis. I'm with AMC Theaters based out of Leawood, Kansas. The theater industry really has made a drastic change since about the mid-1990s with DVD, Redbox, VCR, Blu-ray, being able to stream movies, your phone, things like that, and guests tend to migrate away. What we saw across America is the same thing that we've seen in Springfield, Illinois, which is attendance of movie theaters have dropped. So at Springfield 8, we come to the point where the theater was no longer making money because not enough guests were coming to the theater. The lease was up in a year, and so we had two options. One was find a way to bring guests back into the theater, or we simply walk away from the lease, we walk away from the property, and let the landlord try to figure out how to repurpose that building. So obviously this is what we choose, what we've chosen all across America. We have great success with. We're doing about 40 of these a year where we're coming in and doing a complete remodel. Working with the landlord at this theater, we're going to do a multi-million-dollar remodel where we're going to completely gut the building, replace the old worn wall coverings, floor coverings, most importantly seats, with amenities that guests are looking for. They're looking for something much more upscale, affordable luxury. We're going to be replacing, we're pulling all the seats out. We'll lose about 2/3 of the seats, but we're replacing those with luxury recliners. We'll be enhancing the food and beverage, along with why we're here tonight. We've had great success across America, and one of the amenities that we're using to get guests, again, the adult guests, off the couch and back into the movie theater. So it's one of the big things that we're doing is the seating, the food and beverage, including the adult beverage program. In this theater, again, we're doing just a complete overhaul. What we are anticipating, what we projected, and again, this is based off of doing about 40 of these a year for the last several years, we're anticipating a 207,000 more tickets being sold, or 207,000 more guests walking into the doors of the AMC Theater each year. That's roughly 260 people a day. Or excuse me, 560 people a day. Those aren't just people who walk into the theater, but they're also the ones who drive into town. They drive to the area, they buy gas, they tend to spend time in the restaurants, in the shops. One of the big reasons that landlords across America are helping fund these is because it brings people back into their shopping centers, helps the occupancy. It increases revenue for AMC Theaters, which is taxable revenue. If you're having a 40% increase in guests and you're enhancing the food and beverage, you need to add more jobs. A multi-million-dollar construction project is also hiring a lot of union laborers, construction workers, things like that. We also have two other theaters in Springfield, Illinois, which we were also taking a look at working on. Again, obviously, we're taking a look with the 8 first because the lease was up. If things work here, I think the 12, AMC Springfield 12 is the next theater we're looking at. And then the AMC Classic Parkway Point 8 would be potentially following after that. We've been serving adult beverage in the movie theaters at AMC Theaters for over 18 years, and we have an absolute crystal clear track record. We have won national awards, and these are awards for national chain restaurants, so we're up against every chain restaurant, Apple's, Chili's, Fridays, all the guys that I spent almost 20 years working for prior to coming to AMC Theaters. We beat all of them for best adult beverage program in America, and more importantly, best responsible service of alcohol in America for chain restaurants. TIPS is a nationally recognized training program that's for the intervention of people over-consuming or minors consuming. We have won national awards with them, along with having awards of accommodation from police departments all across America. What we found and what law enforcement has found is that there's no increased criminal activity inside or around the theater by putting adult beverage into movie theaters. No minors in possessions, no increase in DUIs, no fights, no disturbances, no increase. Again, it doesn't matter if it's Carbondale, Illinois, downtown Chicago, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Des Moines, Iowa, Madison, Wisconsin. We're in college towns, we're in small towns, we're in state capitals, we're in major metropolitan areas, we're in suburbs. But again, the same thing that we're finding all across America. The guest response has been overwhelmingly positive, and we've seen no issues to speak of.
Great. I know Alderman Redpath had a question on the...
Yeah, and I think I'm satisfied with it. I did a little research on my own and found out that it's working pretty good in other states, and you know, anything to drive that up, because I know Alderman Turner's been working hard to build that area up. If you got another person who wants to rent the building next to you, so why don't you bring them down here, because we need to fill that space.
But if you could speak to the how you police the liquor, controls with regards to minors or things of that nature, how that all works, that'd be helpful.
Absolutely, and I'll briefly try to touch on this. So again, to contrast it to casual dining, where I spent 18 years at Applebee's International immediately prior to coming to AMC Theaters. The way we controlled minors consuming alcohol at AMC Theaters was that everybody went through internal training. And if somebody was caught, a minor was caught consuming alcohol, you would take that drink away from them and tell them they couldn't drink in your establishment. If they continued, then you would throw them out. And that was really the extent of how we monitor it. At AMC Theaters, we take a much more, almost, people say, over-the-top approach. It's part of the reason we've been nationally recognized, because of not only our policies, procedures, but because of our track record. We only allow ticketed guests, and so we're not looking at a gathering place. It's not the place where we want people to come in and hang around and consume alcohol, which tends to be the place where teenagers want to hang out and have fun. Would be nightclubs, some sort of social bars, and that's not what this is. This is really an amenity, kind of like having a glass of wine at the opera. It's an amenity to the movie-going experience. We require everyone to go through, every single person in the building to go through responsible service of alcohol training, and also all the service staff and the managers go through TIPS training. Again, at Applebee's, they would card everyone who doesn't look to be over the age of 30. AMC Theaters, we card absolutely everyone regardless of age. No matter how old or young you look, you have to get your ID checked before every transaction. We also have a zero tolerance policy where we have a third-party compliance company that comes in and does checks for us, very similar to what law enforcement does. Law enforcement will actually send in a minor to try to purchase an alcoholic beverage. Obviously, independent companies can't break the law, so they send in guests 21 to 25 years old and see if they could purchase an alcoholic beverage without a valid driver's license. Law enforcement across America, 82 to 84% is the success rate, meaning that when they go in to these establishments, send in a minor to try to purchase, somewhere between 16 to 18% of the time they're able to purchase without being over the age of 21. Our internal or our third-party check, we're 97.3% successful. And with law enforcement across America in the 32 states and the 280 locations we currently serve in over the past 18 years, our success rate is 99.999%. Again, one of the big reasons that, again, we're nationally recognized for that. We used standard recipes, which again would limit the amount of alcohol that would go into any sort of cup. We used distinctive cups themselves. They look very, very different than the cups that would be at the concession or paper cups. Anything that would be in the adult beverage area would be clear cups, much smaller in size, and you would easily be able to distinguish between the two. Even the straws are different. At the concession stand, they're red. At the McGuffin's area, they're black. They're separated out from the McGuffin's area is separated out from the concession, so we don't serve non-adult beverage in the MacGuffins area, and we don't serve any sort of alcoholic beverage in the concession area, which absolutely keeps that separate. We also have cameras in place that monitor every single transaction. If we assume, and part of our zero tolerance policy, again, very different Applebee's, or if you catch somebody, you would ask them to stop. At AMC Theaters, if we think a minor is in possession of alcohol, whether they smuggle that in or whether somehow they got it from us, or we believe they're under the influence of alcohol, we call law enforcement, and again, with the video, we turn that over to law enforcement without subpoena and help aid in prosecution to the full extent. Again, this is just big part of the reasons, the things that we do that separate us out from the rest of the people out there doing this.
Alderman Redpath?
Do you guys have any ambitions of video poker in there? Because I'm just asking.
And again, that's a great question. I have a theater that has the MacGuffins in it that's on the Strip in Las Vegas, Nevada. They've encouraged us a 24-hour liquor license, and they've encouraged us to put in slot machines and things like that. Our firm stand is absolutely not. The latest we'll ever serve in America is 12:30 a.m., and at no time will we have any sort of gambling. In the states where marijuana is legal, we've also took a very firm stand that we will not do that either. Again, it's a movie theater, and again, we're respecting that. That's the reason people come.
Great, thank you.
And this license doesn't allow that, does it?
In the early meetings, and I can't remember if this was Rob and I discussing it, but the mayor's position has been that there will be a restriction on the license that would prohibit any kind of video gaming, and Rob has indicated that certainly consistent with your policy.
Yep,
so video gaming will not be allowed.
Yep.
Alderman Senor, and then Proctor.
I appreciate you trying this venture out in Springfield. It's probably about a mile from our house, so I promise you that my wife and I will frequent the movie theater. But,
appreciate that.
Just because you got beer.
One policy I wish you would change. Santa Claus was sick the week before Christmas, and he could only get out Christmas Eve, and he went to the theater to buy movie passes, and they would only let him buy 10. And I was going to put 10 on my card and pay 10 on cash, and I wasn't able to. So just neither here nor there, but it is a concern because of the sickness the week before Christmas, and I wasn't able to give the nephews and nieces their annual movie cards that they get from Santa Claus.
I will,
and there was another gentleman in front of me
that
worked at the radio station that ran into the same thing, so I don't know why that policy was in place, and you probably don't know that
but
answer.
I will absolutely take that back, and we'll take a
you.
look at that for sure.
That's not going to cost him a vote, is it?
I need an answer right now.
Holds a grudge.
Well, I guess as long as we're making requests, can you have shorter previews in the movies? Because that's like one of the biggest things. We show up in these previews, they just keep going and going and going.
You won't notice.
No, but really quick, this license isn't just for this movie theater. Other movie theaters, if they want to do this, they can apply for this license too, right?
And to make clear, they still have to do, the license process and application will come to the city council to vote to create the license, just like any normal liquor license. This is just establishing the category in the city code. They still have to make an application, goes through the normal process.
And one of the
they're
reasons,
aware of that. I'm sorry.
One of the reasons we allowed it was because of the extensive remodel they're doing. I think it's about $7 million on that facility. We appreciate the one you chose. And then the reason you're able to do that is because the owners of Capital City were able to, was it 50% or somewhere, they partnered with you to make that happen.
Correct.
And obviously, Capital Cities, hopefully, has got plans because that big store that was been empty for so long, why can't we get a Schnucks out there?
It used to be a Zayres. You know that? That's how old I am. It used to be a Zayres.
Yeah. And so briefly, like Carbondale is a great example of that, where the landlord came in as in a strip mall, probably 50% vacancy, and knowing, again, if you're going to have, the way you can get shops open is by having more traffic walking in front of it. And so an extra 200,000 people a year walking in front of those buildings, a percentage of those will break off and spend money, and they become much more attractive.
Great.
And how many are there now that come to that theater right now a year?
I think we're somewhere around 400,000.
Oh, 400,000.
Just shy of that.
Alderman Donlin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And first of all, I want to thank you for your commitment to reinvest in the Springfield community. This is wonderful. It's I know going to be a much-needed improvement and make the east side that much better place. But while I have you here, I got to ask one other question, or I'd get in trouble with a member of my family.
Yes.
In your experience, have you seen a resurgence in downtown theaters? And in particular, what I'm asking is, if that's the case and that something like that would be feasible, is it more of an independent type theater or, well, I'll say the traditional kind? And would that be something that, I'm not going to make you commit today, but would be something you would look into for Springfield?
Yes, I think there's a couple things that work with downtown theaters. One tends to be there's not a whole lot of rooftops, which I just said, the pre-show here today was all about adding more rooftops downtown. The way you get more business downtown is get more people who live there and work and are able to go out and spend their money at night as opposed to just in the suburbs. The other part is typically the number of screens is smaller. They tend to be more independent. But again, as we're seeing, I think I travel a lot all across America, and I see this big resurgence in downtown in America where more and more guests are coming in, or more and more guests are living there, so they're not just tumbleweeds at night. There's actually, it's a revitalized place where guests are out shopping and spending money. Movie theaters don't do really any business during the day, much like restaurant, more so even than restaurants. It happens mainly at night, so we need to have a population that lives and sleeps in that area. And again, I think that I'm not making any promises, but what I saw tonight was definitely a first step in that right direction for a company like us to look at that.
Alderman Turner?
I just want to reiterate my excitement that you all are doing this over in that theater. I'm very hopeful that it will increase the traffic there that will then spill over and encourage Capital City Shopping Center to, get more stores and get those spaces in their field. That center was at one point a very vibrant part of Springfield and actually spilled over to Stevenson and Dirksen Parkway. So I'm hopeful that with this, new project that will again become a reality for us. So thank you for investing in Springfield, and this is going to be great. And the other part I want to really stress is thank you for making that investment on the east side of Springfield. It would have been very easy to do that on the west side where there's, more traffic and more businesses are being opened. So thank you very much for taking that chance and making that investment on the east side of Springfield.
Again, I think we anticipate a lot of upside on it, so thank you very much.
Alderman Fulgenzi?
I just want to thank you for the chairs in there. We went to the movie Sunday night, and those chairs are unbelievable.
Yes. So I believe auditoriums
really
1 through 4 were just turned over on the 12th of January. Okay. So you want to go in and see them. The chairs are tremendous, yeah.
Yeah. If you could go over your dining menu real quick.
Yeah, let me pull that out. So the things that we've enhanced with this is getting more into snack plates. So working with Hillshire Farms to get cheese and meat trays. We've also added more. We would say is meals. Before it was mainly popcorn and candy. We've added fired flatbreads. We have loaded dogs. We've also added something we call triple feature, which is an entree with a side and a cookie for dessert. So chicken and waffle sandwich, which had one before anywhere. They're big in the South, and we're selling a ton of them. Guests love them. Chicken tenders, loaded hot dog, and then the cheeseburger sliders. And so really what we're doing is creating a much more robust food menu. At this theater, once we're done, we will likely sell far more food and beverage than the average Applebee's does across America. So it will be significant, significant restaurant revenue. But the other thing, bringing all those guests in, not everyone eats the full meal and still would rather dine out, so that's still an option for them. So the restaurants around will also see a prosperous from this.
Great. If we don't know where to find Alderman Senor, we can look for him there.
Mayor, I do have one question. Are you going to have them change the color of a couple chairs that you and Mrs. Langfelder sat at the first?
That's right. I think they used to be orange. That's where we actually
I guess I could say this now. I was her boss, and we ended up getting married. So it was all above board. Actually, when Carasotis Theaters heard about it, they deported her to the Esquire Theater. So that's how that went. So she ended up working for J.C. Penney's. There's a little history for you.
I don't think you can say that now.
That's right. But it was all above board.
Very good. Very good.
So any other questions? But we appreciate your support for Springfield. It really means a lot, especially to that side of town, as Alderman Turner brought up.
Thank you all very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So all in favor of the motion?
Thanks for
vote.
making the trip, too.
Oh, you're very welcome, and sticking around. Vote yes, those opposed vote no. The voting is now open. And the ordinance passes 10 voting yes, none voting no. Next item on the agenda is 2018-014, an ordinance authorizing an agreement with Illinois Electric Works, Inc. for emergency motor repair for Unit 32, an amount not to exceed $89,800 for the Office of Public Utilities for emergency passage. Chair will entertain a motion to place agenda number 2018-014 on final or emergency passage.
Move for passage.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion?
Yeah, real quick.
All those in favor, vote. Oh, Alderman Hanauer.
Didn't we just, we've had tons of maintenance on those units. What happened this time? I mean, it just seems like they're down a lot, and then when we bring them up, the motor dies. I mean, the idea is to have maintenance on this stuff, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, they do perform maintenance. They have like basically preventative maintenance. They call them PMs, and they do schedules through all the equipment, over different periods of years, depending on what it is. But you will have equipment fail. It's older. Bearing failed on it, and when it went, it destroyed more of the motor than they can just easily repair. So they have to actually send it out to a motor shop. They did a price to get a new one, and it takes longer and is more expensive than it just to repair the motor that we have.
And is there any type of warranty or anything comes with this repair, or how's that work?
Yeah, I would assume that there's probably a warranty with it. I don't have it with me right now, but I can get that to you.
Any other questions? All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote no. Voting is now open. The ordinance passes, 11 voting yes, none voting no. Mayor will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and add to first reading agenda number 2018-029, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an agreement with Innovate Springfield to provide economic development services to the city of Springfield for the time period covering March 1st, 2018 through February 28th, 2019 for an amount not to exceed $100,000.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes, what does this entail for them? Is this?
Innovate Springfield had approached us previously. They were funded through the Q5 initiative. And as you know, with the Economic Development Council being discussed, they're in kind of a limbo stage. So they asked if we would support them this year and potentially for the next 3 years until they can work out an agreement with University of Illinois Springfield partnering with them.
How is this going to affect our stance on any agreement with the Economic Development Commission?
That'd probably be handled through the budget process. But Innovate Springfield, as a reminder, is the incubator downtown. That's one of the pluses that was pointed out in the report. And so this is to put it on first reading so we can discuss our options. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Is there any unfinished business come before the City Council?
Yes. Is Mr. McCarty over there? Okay. Could you tell me where we are with the process of putting the bid together for the city garage with the Napa situation?
Sure, no problem. We did an RFP, I think it was a couple of months ago it went out, and they've come in. There was a team put together that has been evaluating them, and I would expect to get their scoring and evaluation any time now. I was not part of the evaluation team.
How many bids have come in?
I think we got 3 or 4.
Okay, so there is more than one.
Alderman Hanauer?
Yes, also, we requested that we receive the budget with the notes, and we have a budget hearing on Thursday, and we have not received the budget with notes. Last year, I think we proved that it was a valuable asset to the council, and it cut down on a lot of questions that we had for the for the different department heads, and I don't understand why it's taking so long. And you know, we got 2 days, and I haven't looked at the budget because it doesn't do me any good to look at the budget without the notes.
Yeah, we'll get those for you.
Yep.
Imagine.
They're being proofed is the issue. Each department had to go out and look at each and every note to make sure. There were a lot of changes, a lot of things moving around this year. So we will get it to you. You should have it tomorrow. And we had talked to Tim last week, towards the end of the week, saying that was going on and that we would get it to you electronically. And of course, yesterday was the holiday, so.
Yeah.
Alderman Proctor?
I think also we got an Excel version. Can we get that too?
That's what we're getting electronically, right?
Yes,
Well, we
you'll
got
get it
it
electronically.
Last year we got like PDF version with notes and then an Excel version with the numbers.
We can export the data to Excel.
Yeah, that's my request.
Yeah, last year's is still on the desktop.
Right, I got it right here. 3F report
I think the
with
reason
notes.
for the PDF is so the information
Didn't get
can't be changed,
Right.
I would imagine. So OBM's more generous than I was. I would have PDF'd the whole thing and not bothered with the numbers on the
I guess
Excel.
We've got them in both ways, Mayor. That way, as we adjusted numbers, we could play with it, and
it'd be helpful to have.
We could
That's good. That's why, Director McCarty, is that your whim?
But I guess just to make the request formal.
I love to let them play with numbers.
When the PDF version with notes is done, if you could have it put on all of our computers so that we can access it during the budget hearings, I think that, like they said, having it on the desktop for the aldermanic computer would be very helpful during the budget hearings.
Bill, can you handle that?
I told Tim last week that's exactly what we were going to do, so that won't be a problem.
Perfect. Thank you.
And the other thing ISD is working on is a kind of a web application, or where the public would be able to view this year's budget. And again, it's the corporate fund that's we're talking about. And so really it'll give them variables that we're talking about. If, for instance, if a tax increase doesn't pass, where the hole, what that would create as far as a hole in the budget. And if they made cuts in a certain area, how that impact the budget. So it's not where we want it to be, but at least there'll be something out there that they can tinker with and then hopefully improve over time from year to year.
So when are we going to vote on those tax increases?
I guess as soon as we get all the yes votes.
Good answer.
So when you're ready to bring it forward.
Good luck.
We'll have to see.
Good luck.
Time will tell, right?
That was good, Mayor. That was good.
So any other unfinished business? Alderman McMiniman.
Mr. Mayor, we received a Moody's credit rating report last week on Friday. It was published in the media on Friday. As far as the results of that Moody's credit rating report on the city's general obligation bonds and the Water Division general obligation bonds, is there any problem with allowing the media to publish the entire report and/or making it linked to the report through media and that kind of thing, through a website and so forth?
Is that's public information, isn't it?
I will check on that. I don't think we have I'm not sure that there's a restriction. I can find out. But there shouldn't be, and I'm actually looking over to CWLP because I don't know how that's been dealt with before.
Whatever we can make public, we will.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely. Yeah.
Could you put out something on that tomorrow, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I think, Director McCarty, do you know what we've received from the Moody's rating?
We just have it's a 2 or maybe a 3 or 4 page report that they send. I will reach out to Moody's tomorrow and find out if it's okay to share that. I know we can't do it while it's in draft form before anything's published, But I did get a final report on Friday, and I'll ask if we can distribute that.
If I may comment, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
What happened is that one of the members of the media reached out directly to Moody's and asked for a copy of the report, and Moody's said to the media, well, it's proprietary to the city of Springfield. The city of Springfield has to release it. So we want the release to come from the city of Springfield to any members of the media that wish to look at it in detail.
Okay. So once we get that final version, and then we'll go ahead and release that.
I'll ask
So
tomorrow.
that should be, yep.
Yeah, we have the final version, just
Okay.
need to clarify that it is not considered
Okay.
proprietary.
Sounds good. Then we'll give it to the alderman first, and then about 30 minutes later, we'll give it to the public.
We have it already, Mr. Mayor, but
you
we
do?
just wanted to make sure that everyone's on
I
board.
thought that was the draft version.
No, I sent it to everybody
Very good.
on Friday.
Alderman Senor?
Hey, I guess you and I attended the opening of the UIS New Student Center. If anybody
nice.
gets a chance to go out there and visit that, it's open for public wedding receptions. Director McCarty was out there. A very nice place. And thanks, Bonnie, for not coming. I got to sit in your seats.
Yeah, she was ill too.
Yeah, and also this week is a city tournament, and I'm sure Alderman Turner will be attending, and amongst other people, I'm sure.
That starts Thursday?
Yeah, it starts Thursday night.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we play the late games on the north side.
Yeah.
That's good.
I have results from multiple.
But anyway, those are, I bring UIS up because that's a hidden gem out there. It's a Division II school, and I think it offers a great opportunity for some kids that want to go to school and further their education and athletic careers. And I think we need to start getting out there supporting them a little bit more, as well as going to the city tournament and supporting our city schools. So just a little PSA for everybody.
Yeah, they have, I think, 5,000 students, and the goal is to grow another 1,000. And then the investment on that was $21 million, I believe, and $13 million was from the students themselves. So kudos to UIS. We appreciate all they do to help our community grow. Alderman Turner?
Also, the Shop and Save that's located on Dirksen Parkway and South Grand had a grand opening. They have totally redone the inside of the store. They have a lot of new items. They have a great salad bar. They have a great hot bar, wing bar. So I know that it is a location that a lot of people use that are coming into Springfield from, Rochester, Williamsville, and Sherman, all those other small towns. And as they're leaving, they stop there and shop. It is one of the highest revenue producing stores that they own in their chain. So if you get a chance, stop in there. You'll be really surprised at what it looks like now and the different offerings that they have. So stop in.
Great. Stop in all the stores along the east side, but right there.
That's what I'm talking about. Couture.
Is there any new business come before the city council? I know downtown Springfield's dinner is Thursday, January 25th at the Bank of Springfield Center. Anything else? Anybody wish to address the council? Okay. Alice Rainey?
We have no executive session.
Do we?
No.
Okay.
I want to thank the gentleman over here bringing in that theater, because I was in Vegas and I sat in that chair. I almost went to sleep. So, okay, but I didn't have no beer. I just want you to know that. But I did have a nice drink, and I won't tell you what that was yet. And Doris, thanks for working so hard for that. We needed a different one. Now, this is about 30 years or 40 years. We had an Orpheum Theater that had almost the same seats as you have in this one here. And it was comfortable. I have to admit, it was comfortable. It was nice. It was the first theater that showed Elvis moving around, doing that. I want to thank the alderman for being so sharp on some of these things that have come up here. Sorry.
That's me calling you. You didn't see the sign about keeping your phone off?
Anyway, I want to thank you all for being so particular about what is going on with the TIF money and with everything, because I understand that Enos Park hasn't straightened up at all, but that's beside the point. And we do need more work on the east side, And I understand the reason why you offer to have more bids for the fire department. But I'm going to tell you something. I was over there during the holidays, and I was trying to get from Isles to Cocamill, okay, in a roundabout way. And a fire truck was coming down, and one lady, I'll never forget this lady. She was sitting in the middle of the street, lighting a cigarette, and had bright red lipstick on. And I thought, what? Can she hear these sirens? Because there was no room, because cars were parked on both sides of the street. I felt so sorry for him that I think that we need, well, it's the truth. She looked like an old lady.
I'm with you.
But it's tiring. I mean,
It's the
I'm
lipstick.
sorry, but I know
It was
what
the
you're
lipstick.
saying. It is. These women and men that drive think that they own the road when they hear a siren. Stop. They don't stop. If they do, they're lighting up a cigarette or answer the phone, you know. It's time to stop that. It's time to make sure these people get tickets. Then we'll have some more revenue in the city. See? I'm serious.
I was just telling the chief back there to take care of that.
Oh, not him. The other chief. Anyway, Mayor, I want to thank you for being the mayor. It's about time we got somebody up here that knows how to add and subtract and multiply.
Thank you very much. You caught me on a good day.
Oh,
Not even using his
it's the
fingers.
mayor's birthday.
That's right.
It is.
It is.
And I wanted to come up here and tell you happy birthday,
thank you
but I
very
had
much.
to say everything for that because I really think that is going to be tremendous on the east side.
Why don't you give him the Marilyn Monroe birthday? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjournment?
But I
Mayor, happy birthday, by the way.
happy birthday, and we're
Happy
adjourned.
birthday, Mayor.
That was good. That was good.
I'm going to tell you that you're making time for me.
Going out west.
See patterns? Wonderful. Have those tomorrow.
Good job, Rex.
I just wanted to give you, this is the new calendar for the budget here.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know what you're the one I hadn't got it to.
This here, right?
Yeah.